Welcome in. I'm Ariel Onstop. Thanks so much for streaming with us here on your Saturday morning. We want to start off with breaking news because the United States has launched attacks on Venezuela. You're taking a look right now at some of those strikes as they happened overnight in the capital city of Caracas, Venezuela. Now, at this time, the Trump administration actually says that they have captured leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, there in Venezuela, and they've brought them back to the United States where they will be indicted. So I want to go through what we're learning right now as this is a developing situation. You're taking a look at video that was sent in from locals in the coastal Venezuelan city there in Caracas of video explosions. Now, we know that fires were also set from the explosions, but ultimately at least 7 explosions could be heard. It felt like earthquakes and the ground rumbling. Low-flying aircraft swept through the Venezuelan capital of Caracas, and it seems like the United States struck a military base there in the area. After the strikes, the Republic of Venezuela released a statement saying President Nicolas Maduro had, quote, ordered all national defense plans to be implemented and declared a state of external disturbance. In response to the matter, the Federal Aviation Administration here in the United States has actually banned all commercial flights in Venezuelan airspace over ongoing military activity. So we're going to continue to follow this situation. I'd also like to take you live right now to Caracas. You're taking a live look there on the ground as people who live in Caracas are trying to figure out what's going on. You can see a man there in the back with a video camera. There's been a lot of confusion as to what happened in the early morning hours in Venezuela. Obviously, it is daylight there now, but at this time, Attorney General Pam Bondi here in the United States says Maduro and his wife will face criminal charges after an indictment in New York. We do know that Maduro was indicted back in 2020 in New York. It was not previously known that his wife had also been. We also know that this was an extraordinary nighttime operation that the United States launched. And a big question that a lot of people are going to be asking today is, what was the United States legal authority for this strike? Did President Trump consult Congress before? That is not immediately clear. You're taking a look at some other video of these strikes. You can see it happened in the early morning hours before the explosions lit up the sky. The military action that came from the United States plucked Venezuela's leader from office, and it actually is very reminiscent of the U.S. invasion of Panama that led to the surrender and seizure of its leader, Manuel Antonio Noriega, in 1990, and that was exactly 36 years ago today. So history does seem to repeat itself. If you are just joining our live stream, thanks so much for being with us. We're talking about the breaking news that's happening out of Venezuela right now. And I'm going to give you a bit of a timeline as to where we stand in terms of the United States launching this strike and where we stand in terms of the timeline of events that has led us to today. Because as you might realize, the United States has been engaging in escalating conflict with Venezuela as it relates to drug trafficking. And it really started back in January 20th of last year when President Trump signed an executive order paving the way for criminal organizations and drug cartels to be named foreign terrorist organizations. And one of the things that we've looked at is what the intelligence community has said regarding these strikes and what the President Trump has called narco-terrorism activity there in the region. Some U.S. intelligence agencies have disputed Trump's central claim that Maduro's administration was working with a Venezuelan street gang orchestrating drug trafficking and illegal immigration to the United States. But as the situation progressed, February 20th, the Trump administration formally designated 8 Latin American crime organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. That label formerly reserved usually for, terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda or the Islamic State, used mainly for political ends and not for profit-focused crime rings. But that did change with the Trump administration. We saw this switch where we began to designate for-profit drug rings as terrorist organizations. So that's something that we've been following. Also, the United States military, August 19th, we began to see things really ramp up after the summer. So February 20th, the Trump administration designates some of these organizations as foreign terrorist organizations. Then August 19th, the U.S. military actually deployed 3 guided missile destroyers to the waters off Venezuela. On September 2nd, the United States carried off its first strike against what Trump said was a drug-carrying vessel that left Venezuela and was operated by the Trente de Aragua, that gang, that Venezuelan street gang that the president has wanted to target. Now, one of the things that we've watched since the beginning of September is this situation has continued to escalate. We know that the United States has struck more and more of these alleged drug trafficking vessels, and one of them received a lot of attention when the United States launched a double tap strike, meaning they struck the boat and then later struck the survivors that were left in the water. As we continue here, we've had some back and forth and really questions as to whether or not the United States wanted regime change in Venezuela and what that looks like. That is something that we continue to follow, is to understand what is next for the country. And right now there's a lot of confusion. If you're just joining us, you're looking at video there from the capital city as the United States launched its attacks this morning, early this morning in the capital city of Venezuela. Now, I'd also like to tell you a little bit about what the president is saying, because he did post on Truth Social. President Trump put this up, and I'm going to bring down my lower third so you can see the full, a little bit more about what the president had to say. But he said the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. The operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. And one of the things that the president has been doing is hosting a lot of foreign leaders at Mar-a-Lago over the Christmas and New Year's holidays, or in between that break before the new year began. So the president is still in Florida at Mar-a-Lago, has not come back yet to the White House for the start of the new year. So that is where that news conference will be held. And I'm just going to bring up now and take a look if you guys have any questions on TikTok or YouTube. If you're streaming along with us, I'm going to try to look and make sure I can answer those. If you're just joining us, you're taking a look right now at the attacks that the United States has launched on Venezuela. We have over 900 of you streaming live with us here on TikTok. So I want to get through and see if you have any questions. Someone is asking, why did Trump attack Venezuela? That is the central question. I think one of the key things to keep in mind as we kind of look at this, the key factors to consider is that for a long time, the Trump administration has not recognized Nicolas Maduro as the legitimate leader of Venezuela. He has faced corruption charges before, and the Trump administration does believe that Nicolas Maduro is responsible for a lot of illicit drugs flowing here into the United States. They also believe he's responsible for illegal immigration and other activity that the Trump administration has been trying to prevent. So the short answer is they think that Venezuela's leader has been contributing to a lot of crime in the United States. Whether or not that justifies the attacks that you see today is the question that we're going to have to explore. Whether or not the president consulted Congress for this action is a big question. You know, lawmakers were upset recently over the fact that the United States, specifically President Trump and his administration, were launching attacks on drug boats, alleged drug boats in the Caribbean. So I'd imagine that if Congress was not consulted on this, they will likely have a lot of questions as to whether or not this was a constitutional attack. But the president does have some authority when it comes to such things like this. As I look through your comments to see if you guys have anything else that you're wondering and what you want to know. One of the things also to keep in mind is that the attacks were launched on a military military base in Venezuela, and that during this attack, the United States was able to capture Venezuela's president and Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president, and his wife, Celia Flores. One other thing I want to mention again, if you're just joining, is that previously we know that Nicolas Maduro had actually faced charges regarding corruption. Back in 2020, he was indicted in New York. Right now we know that as a result of this attack, Attorney General Pam Bondi says that Nicolas Maduro and his wife are going to face charges here in the United States, and they will be indicted in New York. So that is something that we want to explore a little bit further. I'm looking through, I'm trying to get some latest information for you guys to see what's going on. I think a big question that a lot of people are going to be wondering is what casualties looked like there on the ground in Venezuela. Were any civilians hurt or killed? How many military members may have been hurt or killed? We know that at least 7 explosions could be heard, and they did launch some fires thereafter. So again, something we're all going to keep in mind. But I know this is breaking news. A lot of you have questions. We have over 1,000 of you streaming here on TikTok wanting to know what's going on. So we're going to continue to keep you updated as to what is going on. I am looking through. It looks like we already do have a comment from a Republican senator from Utah, Mike Lee, who posted on X that Secretary of State Marco Rubio had briefed him on the strike and that Maduro has been arrested by U.S. personnel to stand trial on criminal charges here in the United States. So again, this is something we're going to keep an eye on. As you might imagine, senior members of Congress that sit on intelligence and committees like that were likely briefed by the president's cabinet. So we have been seeing that, according to Mike Lee. But we're going to continue to follow this story. I know there's a lot of questions. We have some other local news we need to get to. But in the meantime, this is something that we're following. Continue to put your questions here in the chat, and I'm going to continue to follow up on it. But keep in mind, it seems the basis for this attack that the president is using is the fact that they want Nicolas Maduro to stand trial for criminal charges that they say he is needs to face here in the United States. So we're going to talk about this. You guys don't go anywhere. We have some other local news to cover. But in the meantime, I'm looking through your comments. If you have things that you want to know about, stuff that you're curious about, we're going to talk about it right here on Fox Local. But I'd like to move here locally because we've got some local stuff going on. Our Eli Jordan is out at the polar opposite Peachtree Road Race. And if you're familiar with the Peachtree Road Race, you know it happens every year. It's an annual Atlanta tradition. And Eli, I understand this is like the same race, but in reverse.
It is. Everybody's running backwards out here. They're talking back. No, I'm joking. They started in Piedmont Park instead of having the finish line in Piedmont Park. They started in Piedmont Park and they're ending at Lenox Square Mall, where they normally start on July 4th. But yes, this is the polar opposite Peachtree Road Race. It's their second annual one, and it got filled up. It's got twice as many runners as it did last year. It is sold out. I think we have 9,000 runners out here this year, and I'm out here on Peachtree, just right across the street from the Schnazzy Waldorf Astoria Hotel, and Lenox is right down that way. But I am here with an observer, Irving. Irving, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing
Irving
great.
Cruz, your special lady friend, Ebony, is in the race, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
So tell me, has she ever run the polar opposite before?
This is her first time running the polar opposite, so it's a new thing for us. It's very fun. It's very cool to see all the people out here.
It's a lot cooler than the Peachtree Road Race.
I wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, temperature-wise.
Oh, temperature-wise, yes. It feels nice out here. I would agree with that.
Has Ebony run the Peachtree Road Race before?
No, that is the goal this year. That's why she's starting now. She's trying to get all her races in so that she can get the road race.
So this is like a good primer. The exact opposite, the exact race, but running opposite.
Correct, yeah.
So how was the nerves this morning? Was she excited, or were you excited? Tell me all about it.
There's always nerves, and I'm not nervous. I'm out here with you hanging out, so. But it's always nerves. I just think it's great, being out here, being healthy. We could be doing other things, but we're out here doing this.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So do you have any idea where Ebony might be right now?
I do not.
So I think you had a little out. You were kind of following her around.
I was. Let me see if I can find. Oh, she is passing the Benihana. She's a mile 3. So she has half a mile.
Getting close?
Mile 3. So she has half a mile left, right?
All right. So you better, I don't want to keep you from waving and saying hello because you might get in trouble if you miss out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Irving Cruz right there. He's waiting on his special lady friend. Ebony come running through. She's training for the Peachtree Road Race. And that's what's going on out here is like it's the Peachtree Road Race polar opposite. It's happening. It's a winter counterpart of the Peachtree Road Race, which starts up here at Lenox Square Mall, and it goes down this way. But this one started at Piedmont Park, where the summer race normally ends. And but this one started at Piedmont Park, and they're ending at Lenox Square, right up here. 9,000 runners are participating in this race. And I don't know if they're like, if Cardiac Hill has any involvement. Irving is waiting on his lady friend here to come running by. But I don't know if people are, spectators are having the beers on the side, handing them out, or if they're non-alcoholic beers. This is polar opposite race. But Cardiac Hill, well, they go down Cardiac Hill. They don't run up Cardiac Hill. But as far as that goes, I mean, if I was doing polar opposite, I would be out here in a lazy boy and have someone pushing me. But these are some dedicated people who come out here and run. The Atlanta Track Club started this. Atlanta Track Club is a pretty big club. They got 38,000 members. And did you know the Peachtree Road Race is the second largest, well, actually it's the largest 10K in the world. So Atlanta's got a pretty big deal when it comes to foot races and things like that. And this is the second annual polar opposite Peachtree Road Race going on. And so it looks like that this could go on. They might have a third and fourth annual because this is really good turnout for it. We got the spectators here. We got 9,000 runners going on. And so that's what's going on out here on the Peachtree. If you live in Buckhead, close to Lenox, and you're hearing a bunch of stuff, this is what's going on. We got MCs out here announcing and cheering people on, announcing people as they come across the line. We got photographers out here taking pictures of people. And, of course, the roads are blocked all around here, up and down Peachtree. And this is going to go on to about 11 a.m., I believe. So they already had the first wave of runners come through real early this morning. But now we're getting... we have the C, D, and E's coming through here now. But that's what's going on. We're having a little bit of taste of July in the wintertime, but mirrored in a way.
Eli, the way some of these people are dressed, you might as well think it's July. I mean, goodness, wearing shorts in January. I understand they're running, so, they can get pretty warm, but still pretty remarkable. It's like foggy and cool out there, but not like January cool.
Right. And, if even myself as a spectator, if this was the July 4th race, I would be sweating, drenched. And but this is far much easier to cover than the July 4th. But also, though, there's a lot of moisture in the air, and I'm not sure exactly, the cooler air isn't too kind on, lungs and stuff like that. It could exacerbate some things. So we'll see how it turns out. It'd be interesting to see which is harder, comparison from runners who've run both. Which way is more difficult, the summer or the winter time.
Yeah, Eli, as you catch up with more runners, maybe you'll talk to some people who are hoping to run this summer and be able to get some more of that info for us. I know Alex Forbes is going to come brief us on the weather here shortly. So, Eli, I'll let you get back to tracking the runners, and we're going to follow up with you again at 10 to see what's going on, and maybe some of these folks who are preparing for the Peachtree Road Race can give us some tips in the new year. I know a lot of people have running more as some of their resolutions, so we'll talk about it, Eli.
Right on. Look forward to it.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Eli. Okay, guys, so let's talk here really quickly. I'm going to see how much time I have. If we have some time for a couple of national stories, I'm going to go ahead and do one or two national stories, and then I think we're going to get a check of your weather forecast coming up. We are, of course, tracking the situation in Venezuela. I know a lot of you here in the chat are curious about what is happening there. I'm going to get back to it. We spent the first 10 minutes here talking about that, so we're going to come back to it. But in the meantime, there's some other big stories I want to make sure you're aware of, and one of them involves family members that are still desperate to find their loved ones after that deadly fire at a Swiss bar over the New Year's holiday. Right now, investigators believe that a sparkler inside of a champagne bottle was the cause. Crews continue to search for victims. This is just a horrific and tragic incident. Hundreds of young people were down in that bar. It was a New Year's Eve party, and the age for drinking, legal age for drinking in Switzerland is just 16 years old. So that can put it in perspective for how young some of the people there were. Investigators think that the fire, once it started from that sparkler in a champagne bottle, flames spread and triggered gas explosions, which is ultimately what caused the situation to be so much worse. More than 100 people are badly hurt and more than 40 people are dead. Swiss authorities say they're going to focus on the bar's safety measures, and they're going to try to figure out whether or not there was criminal liability in case the bar didn't follow any proper protocol as it relates to its exits. We also know that people gathered for a vigil just this week to remember the victims. As of right now, some of the victims have not been able to be identified because of the severity of their burns. Family members have been coming to this site, showing photos of their loved ones, saying, "Have you seen this person? Do you know who they are?" Absolutely tragic. A regional hospital there in Switzerland is at full capacity, so we know that authorities in France and Italy are taking victims to specialized burn units there. Europe is a lot smaller than the United States, so it's easier to travel from country to country more quickly. But still, the idea that some of these people have to go to other countries to receive care shows you just how severe the situation was. Very briefly, another national story that I want to let you know about involves a delay that's coming to tariff hikes that were proposed here at the start of the new year. So President Trump is delaying these tariff hikes on multiple products. One thing to keep in mind is that Americans have really been complaining about affordability and the cost of living, and it's likely that the president's administration is taking this into consideration, especially as they look ahead to the midterm elections. One of the things that we've seen the president do is talk about how tariff revenue has really helped the United States. It's been a key part of his economic policy, but he's not going to put tariffs in effect for upholstered furniture, kitchen cabinets, and vanities that was set to start January 1st. In a statement, the White House says it's keeping the rate at 25%, at least until next year. Quote, the United States continues to engage in productive negotiations with trade partners to address trade reciprocity and national security concerns with respect to the imports of wood products. So the White House says it's trying to strike better deals when it comes to trade agreements. In November, consumer data showed furniture costs outpaced inflation, making the products really just not affordable for many Americans. The White House is also backing off of proposed tariff hikes for 13 Italian pasta companies after several warned that tariffs could shut them out of the U.S. market. Experts say a new tax policy signed into law as part of the Big Beautiful Bill is now in effect, and that could also help Americans this tax season. So we're going to talk about filing your taxes here coming up and what that means. But the Supreme Court, also keep in mind, is reviewing President Trump's tariff authority, and they could potentially force the Trump administration to refund some of the billions of dollars it's collected in terms of tariffs. So we'll keep you updated on that. In the meantime, here, you guys, we are going to check on your weather forecast with meteorologist Alex Forbes. That's coming up next. It's very foggy outside, so if you're just starting your Saturday morning, we're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about the situation unfolding in Venezuela. I know a lot of you have questions unfolding about that, so that's coming up next. Welcome back. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. We've got meteorologist Alex Forbes. And Alex, our live cameras, you really can't see much based on how foggy they are.
And we're seeing the delays and cancellations stack up at the airport as well. Over 60 cancellations last I saw over at Hartsfield. It's probably more by now because we haven't really seen this improve. You're looking live. Honestly, I don't even know where you're looking live. You just can't see it. It looks like Sandy Springs, maybe the King and Queen building. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So it really is showing what's going on here across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. Let's head on over to the current temperatures. We've got 53 in Atlanta, 50 in Canton, 49 over in Gainesville at this hour, and 49 in Dalton. And pretty much what you see is what you get today across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. We're not going to see much change in the temperatures, even though we're trending warmer than this time yesterday. 4 degrees warmer in Atlanta, 11 degrees warmer in Rome, 10 degrees warmer in Carrollton, and 7 degrees warmer over in Eatonton at this hour. Now, Fox 5 Live Viper, much drier than it was this morning. The showers have really begun to move out. We take a look at the bigger picture here. You see them sliding over towards the Augusta area. Rainfall totals, all right, so we're talking about almost 2 inches there in LaGrange, just shy of an inch there in McDonough, just over an inch in Eatonton. So it was really south of I-20, which saw the highest totals for this event, at least. Now, we're all in at least moderate drought with a pocket of severe drought up to the north. That's going to be Fannin, Gilmer, and those counties, and then over towards the Chattanooga area. So, you know, we needed the help. We could use a lot more than what we got in several locations, particularly up in Northeast Georgia, but we'll take it where we can get it. All right, so here's the deal now. Temperatures pretty much where they should be, generally speaking, for this time of year. 56 today, average high is 54. But in the days to come, you are going to be looking at a noticeable warm-up. Temperatures getting into the upper 60s and low 70s with our warmest day coming on Thursday there at 71. As for today, here we go into the 50s. We're already in the 50s. That's where we're going to stay. Just a slim 20% chance of a shower for the remainder of the day. A little cooler on the eastern side of the state today. 53 in Gainesville, 55 in Athens, 56 in Blairsville. It's somewhat of a weak wedge setup. Halfway, not all the way type of deal here across north and central Georgia. 60 in Dalton and 60 in Rome today. Now, as we look into the nighttime temperatures now, we were talking about the daytime temperatures being above average. We're going to be back closer to average for the next several mornings, but into the end of the week, those are also going to come up as the rain chances begin to come up as well. I've got a 40% chance of rain. That's going to be really on next Friday, with a 20% chance of rain the 2 days leading up to it. Our warmest day being Thursday there at 71. And honestly, I could drop today's rain chance down to about 20%. That was really left over from this morning with the scattered showers moving through.
Okay, Alex, really good to know. I think as we move forward, it was interesting, or I say as we move forward, right, but more rain I see ahead, but last night I was beginning to hear that rain as promised, and this morning it was interesting how when I walked outside, I felt like it had already been absorbed up so much. Yeah, because it's so dry.
And part of it is that's why you're getting the fog, right? It's the evaporation and so forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, Alex, thank you so much. I know we're going to check back in with you again here soon on what your weather's going to look like. In the meantime, let's move on to some local news. We've got Caitlin Pratt out here live for us. Caitlin, covering a really heartbreaking story this morning. What can you tell us about what's happening there in Cobb County?
Hi, Ariel. Good morning to you. I'm outside Cobb County Animal Services here in Marietta. And why I'm here is this is the group that's spearheading a really gripping, a really troubling animal abuse case. We do have some video of where this troubling, this disturbing discovery was made. We're talking about a dog who was brought by his own owner, according to investigators here in Cobb County, to a park where people walk their animals, right? Where people enjoy time with nature, play. Well, this all happening at Lost Mountain Park in Cobb County, where investigators say early last month, 31-year-old Dawson Womack brought his own animal, his pet, to the park, took him into the woods, and then he shot him in the head, according to investigators. Left the park, left that pet there in the woods, but he didn't die. Later that day, a woman actually discovered the animal, who had been shot several times, had actually survived the shooting. His injuries, though, just so severe. Take a listen to what investigators with the Cobb County Animal Services had to say about this.
One of the visitors to the park had actually pulled in next to a dumpster, and the dog walked over to her. It was not a fatal injury at that point, but it was enough that required euthanization.
Heartbreaking, right? Investigators, here's how they made an arrest, they tell us. They checked with numerous veterinarians in the Cobb County area, finally found one that knew the dog, and here's what they learned. They said that days before the shooting, Womack and the pet had gone to the vet. The veterinarian had recommended euthanasia. Unclear what kind of injuries the animal had that would make the vet recommend such a thing. But in any event, the owner, according to investigators, said, no, I'm not interested in this. And Womack, according to investigators, apparently took things into his own hands, took his animal to the park, and that's where we are right now. Now, Animal Services want to remind everyone watching this, there are other ways to deal with this kind of situation for a family member who happens to be a pet. Plenty of other options, places with lower costs that will help with euthanasia if it is indeed necessary. And while covering this story, Ariel, you may be surprised by this, but Georgia's stats, not great. I'm not talking just about Cobb County as far as animal cruelty charges go, but apparently Georgia, we're a state with a high volume of reported animal cruelty. In 2025, this is terrible. According to the FBI stats, we are 4th in the United States, the entire United States, for total animal abuse offenses. So I guess the silver lining in that is that they're being reported, right, to authorities. So that's the silver lining in that. But to be 4th in the United States for total animal abuse offenses, not great. And the FBI going on to say that they recorded nearly 1,200 offenses in a single recent year. So, yeah. Credit to that woman who did alert authorities when she made that terrible discovery at that Cobb County park. And officials just reminding you, if you see something that you think is suspicious as far as a neighbor, as far as someone you see often while walking, just something that doesn't seem right as far as animals in danger, to go ahead and contact your local authorities. Ariel?
Yeah, Caitlin, this is absolutely heartbreaking. You know, just it's one thing to hear about this story and to listen to you tell me what happened, but then when I saw the photo of that dog,
pitiful.
So heartbreaking.
Just pitiful.
Awful. And I absolutely think of the woman who came across that poor baby and saw him, and thankfully she was able to contact authorities and try to get some movement there. But yeah, at the end of the day, really interesting to be exploring why the person who did this is accused of doing this, why they might have thought that's a good idea. And so we're going to stay on top of it. But Caitlin, thanks for covering this for us. Appreciate you. Okay, guys, we're going to move on here because we've got some other stories to get to. We're going to go back and talk about what's happening in Venezuela because I know a lot of you are really interested. This has been an ongoing situation. Breaking news this morning. Let's go out live if we can to the streets of Caracas. I have live images, and let's see if we can unmute this live camera. I want to listen in because just a bit ago I did see people chanting and holding up fists. So I want to listen in and see if we're getting any audio from this shot. Okay, it seems like right now it's quiet. There's no audio from the shot, but in keeping you updated as to what is happening there, I'm going to move over and take a look at some of the other things to see what's happening. Right now, we do know that President Trump launched large airstrikes, or rather, as you can see here, airstrikes on the capital city of Venezuela and Caracas there. You're looking at video that some residents were able to capture of part of these strikes. Now, keep in mind, as we look at this, that one of the reasons why the United States has done this was to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. And I'm getting up a lower third for you guys, so if you're just watching and trying to understand what's happening, you can know what is going on. So let me get that up for you guys. Right now, we know that Nicolas Maduro is going to face charges in New York City, according to Attorney General Pam Bondi. Back in 2020, 2020, Nicolas Maduro was actually indicted on corruption charges. He was captured in Venezuela with his wife, Celia Flores. And one of the things that the Trump administration has accused Nicolas Maduro of doing is profiting and supporting a Venezuelan street gang, Trente de Agua. And one of the things that the Trump administration believes that Maduro has been doing is helping to facilitate or not taking action to prevent the illegal flow of immigrants and drugs that the Trump administration says is coming here into the United States. So as we take a look at this situation, I want to answer some questions because some people have been asking in our TikTok chat and on YouTube what this looks like and whether or not the president has the authority to do this. So the president does actually have the limited authority to direct military forces and engage in hostilities without Congress's declaration of war. The president is allowed to do this. However, whether or not he can launch full-scale wars, that's going to need some more approval from Congress. At this point, these were strikes that the United States launched. However, it's a significant escalation from what we've been seeing because before the United States has been striking alleged drug boats in and around the Caribbean and the Pacific. Now this is the first strike there inside of Venezuela, the first strike there on its leader, and something that we're going to continue to monitor because as of right now, we know that we've been discussing whether the United States wanted to stop the flow, whether the goal was to stop the flow of drugs, which we know it was in part, but whether or not there was also a greater goal of regime change, whether or not the United States wanted Nicolas Maduro out of power. The United States has not recognized Maduro as the leader of Venezuela. Let's go over here and see what's going on in terms of, I'm looking through some different news updates here on my end to get an understanding as to what people in Venezuela feel about the situation. I do know that a short time ago, people in Florida, Venezuelans in Florida were cheering. We know that they were actually chanting freedom in South Florida after Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured. So this is something that we're going to continue to monitor because as in any situation with these breaking developments, there's going to be a lot of complex emotions and differing opinions. And right now we know that some Venezuelans absolutely are very thankful that Maduro has been ousted from power. But as we continue, a big question that a lot of people here in the United States are asking is whether or not the president had the authority to do this and whether or not he briefed members of Congress and whether or not Congress knew about this strike. So we do know that Senator Mike Lee, a Republican from Utah, actually posted on X that Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed him. Let's bring down this lower third here so that way you can see this this update here from Senator Mike Lee. He says that Secretary of State Marco Rubio briefed him on the strike before it happened and let him know that Maduro has been arrested by U.S. personnel to stand trial on criminal charges here in the United States. Mike Lee says he looks forward to learning what, if anything, might constitutionally justify action in the absence of a declaration of war or authorization for the use of military force. But Rubio told Mike Lee that, according to this post, Nicolas Maduro has been arrested to stand trial here in the U.S. and that what the action we saw deployed in Venezuela constituted was action to protect and defend the executing that arrest warrant. So you guys, if we're making sense of this, at the end of the day, the United States and President Trump, we expect a news briefing from him at 11 o'clock. So in just less than an hour now, we're going to get, or actually over an hour, at 11 o'clock. Let me do my math right. So an hour and 20 minutes. There you go. Hour and 20 minutes. We're expecting to hear from the president. He's supposed to brief us from Mar-a-Lago. And when the president comes back, we expect to know more about what the president saw was the basis for the carrying out this action. I think, you know, if we're going to look at this, I bet the president tells us that the reason he carried this out was because there was an arrest warrant out for Nicolas Maduro based on these 2020 charges, and he wants to see him stand trial. And so the United States government was executing that arrest warrant, and he's going to probably say that that's going to factor into that decision. Now, Whether or not the president says that this was anything more, whether or not he says that this was a declaration of war, or whether or not the United States is going to take further action in Venezuela, that remains to be seen. But it's likely that these airstrikes were done just to capture the Venezuelan president. I'm looking through the comments to see if you guys have questions about what happened in Venezuela and what is going on. You can see live down here in the corner of your screen a live picture from Caracas. There have been a lot of residents there in the streets. I've seen people with video cameras. As you can see, that man up there on the podium there in the back right of the screen. It looks like a lot of journalists on the ground with audio recording devices, as well as some notepads. I've seen people with pens and paper. A woman is holding a Venezuelan flag there in the bottom. So a lot of people have questions as to what is next here. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was not necessarily loved by all in Venezuela. He was considered a dictator. We know that Venezuelans in Florida have been reacting with some relief. There are reports of Venezuelans celebrating in Doral early this morning, celebrating the capture of Maduro. One article I'm looking at, it looks like reporting from CBS News, that one family member, actually one demonstrator, told CBS News, quote, "It means for a chance at freedom. It means that they waited so many years for a chance at freedom, and it's finally here." This is what one man told CBS News there in Miami. He says, "It's been 26 years of waiting for a better Venezuela, and now we're going to be able to go back and enjoy it with our families." So that is one man's opinion. As I get other opinions and things to talk about, I'm going to bring it here to you live right here on Fox Local. But we've known that a lot of families have been gathering, holding signs and Venezuelan flags, taking in this moment. At the same time, there are a lot of people in Venezuela, in Caracas, who are afraid for their lives. We know that these strikes targeted a military base in Caracas, and in the upper right of your screen, you can see video of where some of these strikes were happening. You can see low-flying aircraft that actually went into the city early this morning, and as this went in, there was a lot of fear, and still is a lot of fear for Venezuelans there on the ground as to whether or not they're going to be in the line of fire. We know that Venezuela said after this explosion, the Republic of Venezuela released a statement saying that the United States had attacked several civilian and military installations early this morning. Whether or not President Trump says they did that as well remains to be seen. We are going to have to wait and get more information at 11 o'clock when the president holds a news briefing. Now, we don't really know what specifically the United States struck, just that it was at least some military installations there. At least 7 explosions were felt by the people on the ground there in Venezuela, but this was a hangar in the military base there in Venezuela that was struck. We also know that the FAA has banned all commercial flights in Venezuelan airspace because of the ongoing military activity. So this is a very fluid and developing situation. If you're just joining the live stream, maybe you want an overview as to what unfolded early this morning and what happened. We know that the United States hit Venezuela with a large-scale strike early this morning, and says that President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela has been captured and flown out of the country. This comes after months of intense pressure on Nicolas Maduro's government. The United States carried out an extraordinary nighttime operation, and President Trump announced this on Truth Social there after the attack. The legal authority for the strike, whether President Trump consulted Congress beforehand, is not immediately clear. We do know that he consulted at least one member, his cabinet, via Secretary of State Marco Rubio, consulted Senator Mike Lee, a Republican of Utah, and other members that likely sit on the Senate Intelligence Committee, but briefed him on this strike. So some members of Congress were briefed before it happened, but keep in mind they were not asked for their approval and whether to vote on this. They were simply told that the strike would be happening. So as I continue to keep you updated as to what happened, this lightning fast military action plucked this leader from office, the sitting leader from office there in Venezuela. It's very reminiscent of the U.S. invasion of Panama that actually happened back in 1990, exactly 36 years ago to this day. And it involved the surrender and seizure of Panama's leader at the time, Manuel Antonio Noriega. And so that is something that's interesting. History does seem to repeat itself. But as we continue to take a look at this, multiple explosions rang out as those low-flying aircraft swept through the Venezuelan capital. Maduro's government has accused the United States of attacking not just military installations, but also civilian installations. They are calling this an imperialist attack and are urging citizens to take to the streets and demand answers and to protest this action. However, you're looking in the bottom right of your screen there, live on the ground in Venezuela. And we've tried to listen in to see if there's audio coming from this. We've not heard any audio right now, so this looks like a static camera showing what's happening. If we do get audio on the ground, I'm going to open it up and we're going to let you listen to it. But you can see people chanting, this man in the bottom right pumping his fist, clapping, people holding the Venezuelan flag. So we're working to get more information as to whether or not they support this move. At this time, one might suspect that they seem to be not upset, right? People are obviously confused, obviously unsure as to what's going on and what this means. But right now, there have been a lot of reports of people in Florida, Venezuelans in Florida, celebrating this action because they fear for their family members. Nicolas Maduro was not seen necessarily by a lot of people in Venezuela as a leader who responded to the will of the people. He was considered to be a dictator. So that's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on. But you can see this man here pumping his fist and also people holding Venezuelan flags and cheering. So it does seem that people are wanting more answers, but they don't seem to be based on facial expressions that I'm seeing here in the crowd from some people. Some of these people, at least, do not seem upset by this action. So one thing also to keep in mind is that we don't know the whereabouts of Nicolas Maduro after this strike. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who's taking power under Venezuelan law after Maduro has been ousted, says that they are unsure as to where the Venezuelan leader is. We're going to get more information from President Trump here on that hopefully shortly at 11 o'clock. But the Venezuelan vice president now in office is demanding proof of life, saying that they want to know whether or not Maduro is alive. We do know that the United States captured Nicolas Maduro, hoping to have him stand trial for corruption charges in New York City. Back in 2020, he was indicted on those charges. But the attack itself that happened early this morning lasted less than 30 minutes. The explosions, at least 7 blasts, sent a lot of people rushing out into the streets to understand what was going on. We don't know yet about deaths and injuries. Those are some big questions that we're working to figure out. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the exact charges that Nicolas Maduro is facing, we know he was indicted on corruption charges. And he was indicted on narco-conspiracy or narco-terrorism conspiracy charges back in March of 2020. So that seems to be the basis for the White House carrying out this attack, they say, to arrest Nicolas Maduro for these criminal charges he faces in the United States. But we're going to continue to keep you updated. The last time we saw Maduro on state television was Friday when he was meeting with a delegation of Chinese officials in Caracas. When we look at the bigger global picture, there's a lot of things to consider here because Venezuela does have close ties to China. They also do have close ties with Iran. And as we consider the ongoing situation with Iran and Israel, and as the United States considers Iran's ballistic missile program, these are some interesting factors just to keep in mind in terms of the grander global political scale. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. Looking through your TikTok comments, some of you are commenting saying you're so happy for Venezuela. People are dancing in the streets. Other people are voicing their criticism. It seems like people are wanting to understand whether or not the president had the authority for this, whether or not he acted outside of his authority in doing this. So we're going to continue to keep you updated to understand what people are focusing on and where we're going to go from here. Sophie, you commented, you said, how many times has she said, And Sophie, honestly, probably a lot of times because this is a live and unscripted stream that you're watching. We're covering developing information, so I'm telling you guys everything that we're getting as it comes to us live here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. I know a lot of you are streaming from across the world trying to get updates on this story, not just here in Atlanta, Georgia. So as I continue to get new information, I'm going to bring it to you guys. It may not always be the most polished, but you can trust that as we get new information, we're going to bring it to you right here and to keep you updated as we get any new information. One thing I'm going to point out before we continue on is that as we look through this, we know that the United States has discussed regime change in Venezuela. As you might imagine, the United States, with a lot of its strikes on these alleged drug trafficking boats here that started to escalate from September onward, that has been a central question is the United States simply targeting these alleged drug trafficking boats to stop the flow of illegal drugs into the United States, or are they also trying to oust Venezuela's president from power? It does seem that both things are true at this moment. So we're going to continue to keep you updated as we get any new information. One person commented and said he was a dictator, but this is no way to change a regime. And the commenter is M, and so I'll just refer to you as M. But at this point, M, you know, I think a lot of people might share your sentiment, right? The idea that there's no love lost about Nicolas Maduro and what he meant to the Venezuelan people, but a lot of people might have concerns about another country coming in and simply removing a leader from power and the precedent that that sets. So that's something that we're going to continue to keep you updated on. If you get any questions, let me know, or have questions, I'll try to answer them as we get new information here. But you guys, we are going to continue to follow along on this developing story. We need to take a quick break. As we continue, I'm looking live off to my right. We have live images from Venezuela that we're going to continue to bring you, and also live images of the White House. But we know that the president is going to brief us from Mar-a-Lago. So thanks so much for streaming and asking your questions. I'm going to keep an eye on YouTube and TikTok here if you guys have things you want to know. We also have some local news to get to, but we're going to talk about that coming up next. Welcome back in, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming here live from Fox 5 Atlanta. We are covering a lot of developing stories today. The big one that a lot of you are talking about and that we are continuing to monitor involves the United States launching attacks on Venezuela, arresting its leader, Nicolas Maduro, and bringing him here to the United States to stand trial. So we're going to continue to follow this situation. We do have a tweet from Georgia Representative Buddy Carter, and I'd like to bring that in so you guys can read it here locally. Nicolas Maduro, Buddy Carter tweeting this just a bit ago. Nicolas Maduro, an illegitimate leader, and his wife will now face American justice for narco-terrorism, sending drugs into our country and killing our children. This indictment is just the beginning. We have the strongest fighting force in the world and thank brave service members who risked their lives in this noble mission. And so this is Buddy Carter tweeting in support of President Trump's action. As we get tweets and updates from other lawmakers on their takes on what the president has done, we're going to continue to update you on this. I think a big question a lot of people are asking is, did the president have the authority to oust Nicolas Maduro from power? We know that at this time, the president did not get formal congressional approval, but his cabinet members, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, did brief some lawmakers. Senator Mike Lee from Utah posted on X as well that Rubio told him via the phone that they would be launching these strikes on Venezuela. And Mike Lee did point out, I mean, he said, I look forward to learning what, if anything, might constitutionally justify the action in absence of a declaration of war or authorization for use of military force from Congress. You might imagine that congressional leaders are going to have a lot of questions this morning, especially since they have been asking for answers and maybe greater oversight of the Trump administration striking drug boats off the coast of Venezuela in both the Caribbean and the Pacific. On the other side, taking a look at, hey, does the president have the authority to do this? And while we suspect that these are drug trafficking vessels, are they actually, is the president acting within his authority? So that's something that we're going to talk about as this continues. A lot of questions still to come. We're going to talk about it right here on Fox Local right here. So as we continue, though, I do want to get you a check of maybe a couple other local stories, because I know some of you streaming along may have questions about what's happening here locally in the Atlanta area. So looking ahead to 2026, which we are now currently in, there are a few trials that are coming up that are significant for this year. And some of them have made national news, and I'd like to talk through where we stand with those. One trial starts Monday for a Carroll County teen accused of killing her mother and her stepfather. We're talking about Sarah Grace Patrick. Prosecutors have charged her with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Authorities say that she killed Kristen Brock and James Brock, again, her mother and stepfather. And the parents were found dead in their Carrollton County home last February. We also know that attorneys say she completed a psychological evaluation. That report has not been submitted yet, but depending on the findings in that report, the prosecution says it may need more time to review the case. The judge says he would be willing to issue a continuance if needed, but this has been a very significant case that we're going to continue to follow here in the Fox 5 newsroom. Another big case I want to continue to keep you updated on involves the man accused of the Atlanta spa shootings. This case, a very long-running case, is expected to continue to move forward to trial here in 2026 in Fulton County. The defendant, Robert Aaron Long, is already serving 4 life sentences without parole after pleading guilty in Cherokee County to killing in 2021. But in Fulton County, however, he still faces 19 additional charges, including murder, aggravated assault, and domestic terrorism tied to those shootings of Atlanta massage businesses back there in 2021. Prosecutors say they plan to seek the death penalty, and so that's the reason why he has been fighting these specific charges here in Fulton County. We're going to continue to keep you updated on this. There's some other trials I want to continue to speak with you guys on. In the meantime, I want to give you a look at what's coming up next. Let's go out to Buckhead, where we know the polar opposite Peachtree Road race is happening. We have a live look out there as you can see the finish line festivities, it looks like, and race goers celebrating the end of that hard work, that they've put into running this race. So our Eli Jordan's going to join us live coming up to talk about where this stands, what's happening there with the polar opposite Peachtree Road race. I know it's not quite the most polar temperatures out, but this race does run the exact opposite route of the Peachtree Road race we see in July. So we're going to talk about that coming up. And of course, you guys have not forgotten about Venezuela. It is the topic you all want to know more about. So we're going to continue to discuss new information as we get it here into the newsroom. It does look like I'm going to check my news update alert. Breaking, actually, we just got this update. President Trump does say some U.S. forces were hurt in Venezuela in this strike, but he believes, quote, we had nobody killed. So the president has just published that update saying that some United States forces were hurt in this Venezuelan strike, but he does not believe any U.S. forces were killed. How many casualties happened on the Venezuelan side? We are going to try to continue to follow up on that and get that information to you. As soon as we get it here, I will bring it to you live. But guys, we got more news coming up next, so don't go anywhere. We're going to continue. Welcome in, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming along here with us. It is great to have you here live, and we've got breaking news as we continue to cover the ousting of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. I know a lot of you have been really interested on this on TikTok, YouTube, over 1,000 people streaming live with us on social media alone, asking a lot of questions. So we're going to continue to cover that. As of right now, a breaking news update I can let you know about is that President Trump said this morning on Fox News that no one on the United States side is believed to have been killed in these strikes, but some U.S. forces were hurt. We're working to get more information as to any casualties on the Venezuelan side, but at this point, the leader has been flown out of the country, and we do not know yet the next steps for Nicolas Maduro. The United States is deciding that, but President Donald Trump said on Fox News just this morning we're going to be involved in it very much. So we're going to continue to keep you updated on this at 11 o'clock, so in just under an hour, the president's going to give us a briefing from Mar-a-Lago as to the basis for this strike and where we're going to go from here. A lot of you have questions, so we're going to get to that. But first, I do want to start with some local news. We have some people hanging out right here from Atlanta wanting to know the news of the day and what's happening. And a big story that's really just heartbreaking involves a man being accused of shooting his own dog at a local park. Our Caitlin Pratt has been following up on this story for us. And Caitlin, absolutely horrible. I understand that another park goer actually found the dog.
Good morning to you, Ariel. Yeah, just shocking on so many levels. You don't have to be a pet lover, an animal lover, right, to be just stunned by this story, because we all go to parks, whether it's just for a walk, to exercise, to get some fresh air. Maybe you do bring your dog along to one of the dog parks in the area, and that's exactly the case. What happened, according to investigators here in Cobb County. I'm here outside the Animal Services here in Marietta, the agency spearheading the investigation into dog cruelty, animal cruelty. So let's rewind a little bit, talk about what police say happened as far as this one case is concerned. I don't have the name of the animal involved, but I do have the name of the person who police say is responsible for this terrible situation I'm about to tell you about. His name is 31-year-old Dawson Womack, and according to investigators here in Cobb County, he brought his own animal to Lost Mountain Park in Cobb County. This was last month. He took him into the woods there, and according to police, that's when he shot him several times and just left the animal there to die. That's when a park goer enters the equation, right? She's pulling up, parking her car. She sees a dog bleeding. His injuries severe. I'm going to let the investigator pick it up from here. He'll tell you what happened next.
One of the visitors to the park had actually pulled in next to a dumpster, and the dog walked over to her. It was not a fatal injury at that point, but it was enough that required euthanization.
So investigators, how did they figure out who was responsible for this, right? Well, according to police, they checked with area vets, and one of them actually recognized the animal involved in this terrible situation. Apparently, his owner, who now is under arrest, according to this veterinarian and police investigators, brought him in, and that vet had recommended euthanasia, putting him down. Unclear what kind of injuries, what kind of health issues prompted that suggestion. But what is clear, according to police, is that instead of taking that suggestion, this man took it into his own hands, the 31-year-old suspect, and left his dog to die there in the woods. He's now charged with animal cruelty. And this is just one of many cases playing out, not just here in Georgia, but across the nation. I did dig in, though, Ariel, to some numbers that were pretty alarming as far as how we fare here in Georgia. Apparently, we're number 4 in the nation for total animal abuse offenses, so that's very troubling, to say the least. And 1,200 offenses in a single recent year, according to the FBI's National Incident-Based Reporting System. I will say, though, this is all based on reported cases, so that's some promising news as far as this terrible situation, this terrible crime is concerned, that people are reporting these crimes, so alleged crimes in this case. So, well, he remains in jail, and sometimes these cases take some time to make their way through the court system. We'll, of course, keep you updated every step of the way, especially since this is a case that so many are following now, so many animal lovers.
Yeah, you know, Caitlin, I know you have a sweet dog. I have a few myself, and just as a dog owner, I can't imagine, you know, even if I was hard for cash, right, and I don't want to judge anyone's situation, right, but I could never imagine taking my own dog's life just as a result of, hey, maybe the vet said euthanasia, right? And I said, hey, I'm going to take this matter into my own hands. This was not a compassionate way for this dog to go, especially considering that he did not even die and another park goer found him. So just horrible seeing that video. We have some people, Caitlin, I'm looking through questions here in our TikTok chat because a lot of people are talking about this story. A lot of people saying, poor baby, you know, I mean, the video, if we could play that one more time, just showing that dog, because I think it was just looking at those images that really just, it hurts your heart. And giving the greater context to Caitlin of just understanding animal cruelty cases here in Georgia, I didn't know that we ranked so highly.
Yeah, we sure do, unfortunately. And also, too, I mean, this is so prevalent, not just here in Cobb County, but just across our state. There's actual teams, actual detectives, actual units that go out and investigate. And I mean, countless calls come in and they go and investigate each and every one. And maybe there's an arrest. But I will say that it's heartening to see that so many people do see something that's a little bit off, off and do make that phone call. So that's something there. I do want to add, Ariel, that the animal services folks here in Cobb County want to stress that there are some other options here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't afford what your vet is offering, there are some other options. You just have to make a phone call and you can be guided in that direction. Yeah, and I mean, horrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, part of me, you know, wants to feel the compassion of, okay, maybe you felt backed into a corner, but I mean, as a dog owner myself, I can't imagine that being an option, frankly, and I feel like a lot of people here in our chat are kind of seeming to say the same thing. Some people asking about the next steps, which I know we'll continue to keep you updated on, Caitlin. You'll keep us abreast, but in the meantime, Caitlin, thanks so much for bringing this to our attention and keeping us informed on the bigger picture. We appreciate you. Okay, guys, we're going to move on here because we've got some other local stories to cover as we progress with your Saturday. One thing that's actually happening today on your Saturday here in Atlanta is the polar opposite Peachtree Road Race, exactly the opposite of what happens with the Peachtree Road Race in the summer. And our Eli Jordan is out at the finish line where we know this is starting to wrap up. Eli, it looks like a lot of festivities and celebrations happening behind you now.
Hey, good morning, Ariel. Yeah, it's snowing behind me. You can see it's the polar opposite Peachtree Road Race. Runners are coming in here, and they're signifying the polar oppositeness of the July 4th race with snow and all that good stuff. And this is an event, this is the second annual event by Atlanta Track Club, and it's very successful. They had 9,000 runners this morning, all coming out. And I am with Track Club CEO, Rich McKenna. Rich, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And so tell me, how's the day been going? And why the polar opposite race?
Well, thanks for having me and Happy New Year. In 2023, right after the race, the number of people that were asking us to register for next year's Peachtree had me thinking, if people aren't getting enough of the Peachtree once a year, let's see if we can deliver it to them twice a year, but deliver it in a way that's very different, but leans into the tradition of the Peachtree. So thus, the polar opposite Peachtree was born.
And so, I mean, this is a big, endeavor because it's the complete route, but opposite. And so it takes just as much effort to close down the streets and everything, correct?
It does, but it's scaled. So last year we had about 4,000. This year we're just over 9,000. We're just like the Peachtree. We're just trying to grow slowly and not shut down the city, but deliver that Peachtree joy in January as people start with their New Year's resolutions.
Past 2 years we had the runners filled up and everything. Do you see this growing and continuing, and it becoming the second big event in Atlanta as far as running goes?
We do. We're not gonna wake up next year and have 25,000 people. We're gonna do it very carefully. But yeah, we're gonna grow this thing just like the AJC Peachtree was born 1970, started growing in 76. 10 years in, it was 25,000 people.
And it's the largest 10K in the world, correct?
July 4th version is the largest 10K in the world. I'm not sure we want to get that big for this one, but we'll grow.
Gotcha. And as far as the track club goes, you're 38,000 strong. I mean, that's the second largest in the country, right?
Correct. So we want everyone to run and walk. We want Atlanta to move forward. Our vision is for Atlanta to be the healthiest city in the United States, and we believe through running and walking we can accomplish that.
Now, one quick question. I ran into a few people that said, they're training for my girlfriend's training for the Peachtree in July and all that. Just, we're at the beginning of the year. What would you say as CEO of the Atlanta Track Club? What are a couple of the biggest mistakes runners make when they're starting off their running career, I guess?
So I'm a lifelong runner. I can speak to this personally. I think when you get started, you might want to go too far or too fast or both. If you're preparing for the AJC Peachtree Road Race on the July 4th, take it slow. Start walking, then start jogging, and then start building up your distance. We want to keep you healthy so that you can celebrate, and it's going to be a special year. July 4th, America 250, the 250th anniversary of our country, the 57th running of the Peachtree. It's going to be a blast.
That will be big. Real quick, is it easier to run in the cool air or the hot air?
So I stand here at the finish line as I'm breathing in my snow. Standing here at the finish line, almost without exception, people here are saying that this one is easier because of the temperature.
Makes sense. But congratulations on a successful polar opposite Peachtree run. Rich Kenna, CEO of the Atlanta Track Club, and Atlanta Track Club has put this on and organized it, and it looks like it's been a great success. Rich, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come out here, and I guess we'll probably see you guys again this summer and next year.
Sounds good. My pleasure again. Happy New Year to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. So, Ariel, there you have it. That's what's going on out here. We got the snow going on, the soaked snow, and people are kind of happy, and they're wrapping up. And the course closes at 10:30.
Okay.
But they'll stick around and accommodate any stragglers and stuff. But it'll be wrapping up soon out here. And but this will be open. Lenox Square Mall has opened this up for the Atlanta Track Club all morning. And you can still get your picture made by the snow machine if you want to. So this will be open, but the course is closing down at 10:30. So that's all we got going on here. It's the polar opposite Peachtree race here in Atlanta in January.
Eli, looks like a lot of fun out there, and you know, pretty remarkable to think that people are wearing shorts in January. But you know, it is the situation given our current temperatures. So, looking outside, I can see the snow still on the ground there, snow, if you will, there in Buckhead at the polar opposite Peachtree Road Race. So Eli, Jordan, thanks so much for giving us a live look. We'll keep checking in with you as things progress. Okay, guys, we're going to continue along here. I have new information on both Venezuela and Iran, so we're going to continue to talk about that. It is our #1 item that you guys want to know about, both on TikTok and YouTube. So let me go back to YouTube real quick, make sure that if you guys have any questions, I'll let you know about it. So I've gotten new information about a couple of live pictures that we have coming in from Venezuela. So I'd like to take these live images now. You can see they're in the streets. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about what is happening in these pictures, because I've gotten new information as to what is going on. Journalists there on the ground are sending information back to us here, and we are able to get that in. And so right now, it does appear that what we see, you're looking at two live pictures side by side there from Caracas, and these are actually government officials and supporters of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro gathering in downtown Caracas. And so we've been seeing people chanting. You can see people raising their fists. I'm not sure if we have any audio on either of these shots. We're going to try to listen in and see if there's something that we can hear and maybe allow you to listen. But these, okay, it looks like we actually can hear. This is in Spanish, but let's listen for just a little bit.
Voy a ser breve, por el amor de Chávez. Hace 20 años, esta persona que está aquí era indigente. Andaba en la calle comiendo la basura, robando. Ese compañero Chávez me dio la mano en la Plaza Katia. Hoy en día tengo 18 años estudiando en esta revolución. Yo voy a ser breve, como lo dijo el comandante una vez. En este país, o somos nosotros, o somos nosotros. O somos nosotros, o somos nosotros. No hay para nadie. ¡Viva la patria!
Gracias, hermano querido. Bueno, y como estamos en una batalla, está la batalla por la salud. Nuestra ministra Magali Gutiérrez, su mensaje para toda Venezuela.
Okay, so you're listening to supporters of Nicolas Maduro. They're live on the ground in Venezuela. This is some government officials and Venezuelan people there. In support of the president in downtown Caracas. On the other side, right, because I always want to make sure I give you both sides of the equation. In Florida, we've seen reports, we don't have any live images of it, but we have seen reports of people in Doral, Florida celebrating Nicolas Maduro being removed from power. If I get any live images from Florida or of people celebrating his ousting, I will bring that to you as well. But as of right now, we're being told from local journalists there on the ground that these are actually supporters of Nicolas Maduro there in Venezuela. And I want to back up very quickly and give you an overview, because this was an extraordinary nighttime operation that the United States carried out, capturing Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. This comes after months of strikes, and you're looking at images of Nicolas Maduro in case you don't know what he looks like. But this comes after escalating pressure from the Trump administration on Venezuela. In case you're unfamiliar, Venezuela Venezuela is in South America, and it's a very oil-rich nation, and this has played greatly into the geopolitical situation we find ourselves in. Venezuela is close with China, Iran, and Russia, and the United States has also sought to stop Venezuela from supplying Russia with oil. That's been something that we have known the Trump administration to discuss heavily. Also, as it comes to next steps for this country, President Trump said on Fox News on this morning that the United States is going to be involved in it very much. We're working to get in information from the president. He spoke to Fox News this morning on the phone, and we're working to get that information in. Okay, so as of right now, it does seem that we have that phone interview. We're going to allow you guys to listen to it now. I want to make sure that you have the full picture. Keep in mind, in just about over 40 minutes or so, the president is going to brief us from Mar-a-Lago, where he's going to hold a news conference on the strike and next steps. But I'd like to let you listen in on this phone interview right now. We're going to let you listen to the entire 15 minutes. So let's listen.
So you've had quite a busy evening. Tell us about it.
It was slightly busy, I would say. It was very dark all over, especially in Venezuela. The team did an incredible job. They rehearsed and practiced like nobody's ever seen. And I was told by real military people that there's no other country on earth that could do such a maneuver. If you would have seen what happened, I mean, I watched it literally like I was watching a television show. And if you would have seen the speed, the violence, you know, they say that, the speed, the violence, they use that term. It was an amazing thing, an amazing job that these people did. There's nobody else could have done anything like it.
You're at Mar-a-Lago right now. How were you able to watch this?
Well, we watched it from a room. We had a room, and we watched it, and we watched every aspect of it. We were surrounded by lots of people, including generals, and they knew everything that was happening, and it was very complex, extremely complex, the whole maneuver, the landings, the number of aircraft, which were a massive number, the number of helicopters, a different type of helicopters, different type of fighter jets. We had a fighter jet for every possible situation. And they just broke in, and they broke into places that were not really able to be broke into, you know, steel doors you were put there for just this reason, and they got taken out in a matter of seconds. I've never seen anything like it, actually.
And you were able to watch this in real time.
Yeah, and don't forget, I've done some pretty good ones in other parts of the world. Okay, I've done some pretty good ones, but I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it, and I listened to the communication between, you know, where we were in Florida and out in the field in Venezuela. And it was amazing to see the professionalism, the quality of leadership, the professionalism. General Raisin Kane is fantastic. Don't forget, we did another one not so long ago. It was called the knocking out of the Iranian nuclear threat, the nuclear power. And that was unbelievable what they did there. And this is something that, gee, I don't know, it's amazing. And to have a few injuries, but no death on our side is really amazing.
Mr. President, critics will say that strong action can risk escalation, but history has shown us that weakness can truly invite chaos. And this military operation clearly sends a message to our adversaries around the world, China, Iran, Russia, that we are no longer the weak administration that we had for 4 years under former President Biden, who tolerated narco-terrorism. What is next for the United States and Venezuela?
Well, we're very strong, and very importantly, if you look at drugs through the oceans, through the seas, they're down 97%. That's the boats. It's sort of related to this, as you know. The drugs are way down, and it's getting very, very tough. It's a whole different look. We have a whole different country. We have a country now that's respected. We have a country. I built the military in my first term, and they gave a little chunk of it away, but it was a lot. But it was a little chunk relative to what we built. But they gave it to Afghanistan so stupidly. It was one of the. Compare this to Afghanistan, where we were a laughing stock all over the world. We're not a laughing stock anymore. No, we have the greatest military in the world by far. We have the greatest military equipment in the world by far. And you had to see this in real time. You had to see this, the professionalism and the bravery, everything about it. And you almost couldn't hold them back. It was like they wanted to go so badly. And most people would have said, I'll take a pass. I know that Charlie would have wanted to go because Charlie's a very brave person. But I know a lot of other people would have said, I think I'll pass on this one. Let's watch it on television. It's been amazing to see how good they were, how professional they were, how incredible the equipment we have is. I mean, the level of equipment and to see how it worked so perfectly. And, you know, if you compare this to attacks on Iran over the years with, you know, helicopters crashing into each other, the whole thing was a mess. The Jimmy Carter situation, which was a mess. And every other situation compared to this, nobody's ever seen like this. Look, the Iranian attack, knocking out their nuclear power was big. We had peace in the Middle East, and we have it. Without that, you could never have peace in the Middle East. We knocked them out, and look what's happening now to Iran, but we knocked it out. That was, it could not have been better, and this could not have been better. I don't even know which is, these are both really important. If you think about equal and importance, I wonder how it's going to be rated, but knocking out the nuclear power of, think of it, they were ready, they were within 2 months, they would have been a nuclear power. And comparing that to this in a certain different way, I think this might have been actually more complex.
Well, it's interesting.
That was something that was amazing.
It's interesting, Mr. President. We've looked, our own Lucas Tomlinson, our reporter here, I don't know if you knew this intentionally, but the capture of Maduro and his wife coincides with the 6th anniversary of your taking out the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Qasem Soleimani. Interestingly, it's six years after. But let me ask you a question, Mr. President. Because,
by the way, that was the third thing, and we have a fourth. We got Soleimani. We have taken out so many. Look at what we did to the leader of ISIS, who's no longer with us, right? And everybody was after for 20 years, and we got him. We've done a lot, but this was something, maybe because it's fresh in our minds, because again, the Iranian situation was so big, knocking that out, and the B-2 bomber, every single missile hit its target, and the target was an air shaft.
Right.
Dark at night. Think of that. Dark at night, no moon. You couldn't see a thing, and every missile went right through that air shaft and just obliterated the place. So that was amazing, and this was amazing.
I wonder, Mr. President, though, I want to ask you because from your Vice President, J.D. Vance, said that the message is pretty clear. The drug trafficking must stop. So was this operation a message that you're sending to Mexico, to Claudia Sheinbaum, the president there?
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. They like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people, and we lost it to drugs. And they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada too, by the way, in case you don't know. But they come in through the southern border, and something's going to have to be done with Mexico.
Why did you decide to do this morning?
Are you talking about calling you people or the shot?
No, taking out.
I'm not sure which is worse. If you want to know the truth, I'm calling you. I haven't spoken to anybody else because Charlie Hurd has been a great friend of mine for a long time. He was with me when it was not fashionable, and those are the people I like. He was with me, Charlie, when it was not at all fashionable. So that's the reason I'm doing this. And your show is great. You're doing a great job. What a good team.
But I meant, why did you make the decision to take out Maduro this morning? And what was Maduro doing when our guys came in on him?
So we were going to do this 4 days ago, but the weather was not perfect. The weather has to be perfect. And we had just the perfect weather. We had, very good. A little bit few more clouds than we thought, but it was good. We waited 4 days. We were going to do this 4 days ago, 3 days ago, 2 days ago. And then all of a sudden it opened up and we said go. And I'll tell you, it was just amazing. And what was he doing? He was in a very highly guarded, like a fortress, actually. He was in a fortress. That we had nobody killed was amazing. I think we had nobody killed, I have to say, because a couple of guys were hit, but they came back and they're supposed to be in pretty good shape. But that we had nobody killed, that we lost no aircraft. Everything came back. We got it all back. One of them was hit pretty hard, but a helicopter, but we got it back. But it just was the right time to do it. We had to do it because it's a war. We're losing 300,000 people a year. We don't lose that much in a war, okay, if you look. And we had to do it. But he was in a house that was more like a fortress than a house. It had steel doors. It had what they call a safety space, where it's, solid steel all around. He didn't get that space closed. He was trying to get into it, but he got bum rushed so fast that he didn't get into that. We were prepared. We had, massive blowtorches and everything else that you need to get through that steel, but we didn't need it. He didn't make it to that area of the house.
Mr. President, your war on narco-terrorism from our southern border and beyond clearly will save American lives. Moving forward for Venezuela, what do you think is next for the Venezuelan people now that you have removed Maduro so that he can face American justice?
Well, we're making that decision now. We can't take a chance on letting somebody else run and just take over where he left or left off. So we're making that decision now. We'll be involved in it very much. And we want to do liberty for the people. We want to, have a great relationship. I think the people of Venezuela are very, very happy because they love the United States. They were run by essentially a dictatorship or worse. It couldn't have been worse. It was a terrible thing that was taking place in Venezuela. But look, tremendous numbers of people were being killed through drugs. And what they did to our country in sending prisoners and people from mental institutions and drug lords and everything, they sent them by the hundreds of thousands of people into our country. And that is just unforgivable. That's why, he wanted to negotiate at the end, and I didn't want to negotiate. I said, nope, we got to do it. He was trying to negotiate at the end. You probably saw that. And trying hard to make a deal. And I said, this could have been a very foolish thing if it didn't work out. But I said, nope, we can't do it. What he did with drugs was bad. What he did with a lot of other things was bad. But what he did was sending hundreds of thousands of Tren de Aragua and drug dealers. And they emptied out their jails into our country. They emptied out, if you think about it, they emptied out all of their mental institutions into our country. What he did there, and every other thing, is unforgivable.
Mr. President, you're already getting reaction from members of Congress on both sides. One Democrat, Jim McGovern, is saying that you did not get authorization from Congress. And he says Trump just launched an unjustified illegal strike on Venezuela. Wanted to get your reaction to that.
Well, look, these are weak, stupid people, and they're trying to save themselves from almost destroying our country. If I didn't get elected, our country would not, I don't even think we'd have a country right now. We were heading down the path of destruction. We had inflation. We had high prices. They're the ones that caused high prices, not us. We're bringing the prices way down. We have oil now in many places, $1.99 a gallon. And, when you do oil, everything follows, but everything is following. But, no, they would have destroyed our country. If we didn't get elected, if Kamala or a Joe type got elected, if that group got elected. But if Kamala got elected, I don't think at this point we would even have a country. We were laughed at all over the world. The money was flowing out. Everybody was leaving. The companies were leaving. The people were leaving. The wealth was leaving. We have $18 trillion coming back into our country, the biggest number in the history of the world. The second biggest number was $3 trillion. We're at $18 trillion, and it's building factories and plants. It's doing things that no country has ever seen before. But as far as last night is concerned, it was really genius. What they did is genius. And the Democrats, maybe they'll take a shot. They'll take a shot. All they do is complain. They don't talk about, they should say, you know what, we did a great job. We're stopping drugs from coming into this country. And nobody's been able to do it until we came along. But they should say, great job. They shouldn't say, oh, gee, maybe it's not constitutional. The same old stuff that we've been hearing for years and years and years. They did an incredible job. These men and women that went out there last night, the courage they had, going into an area where, all the lights were turned off. We turned off almost all of the lights in Caracas. I mean, this thing was so organized. And they go into a dark space with machine guns facing them all over the place. And then you hear from a guy that I'd never even heard of him. But you hear from some congressman saying, oh, this is so terrible.
Well, you're listening as President Trump updated on the status of the airstrikes carried out in Venezuela as the United States has captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. We learned a lot of interesting things from that 15-minute discussion with President Trump. He spoke via the phone, and we know that in roughly less than 30 minutes, he's about to come out and brief us from Mar-a-Lago as to the status of these strikes in Venezuela. One interesting thing that came out, a lot of interesting things, let's be honest, but one interesting thing that came out of that phone interview, they asked the president, Fox News host asked the president whether or not this is sending a message to Mexico. And the president said not necessarily, but he did point out that he feels drug cartels run Mexico. And he says while he feels the president of Mexico is a wonderful woman, he feels like she's not really in power there. So this is sparking some questions as to where we could head from this situation. Where do we go next? Are there any other countries that we're going to take a look at here within the next year as the Trump administration continues its war on narco-terrorism? I'm monitoring our chat here on TikTok and on YouTube. If you guys have questions on any of these stories, let me know. But as of right now, we do not know where Nicolas Maduro is. That's an update we hope to get here at 11. As of right now, Venezuela's vice president has moved in to act as president. And in the bottom right of your screen, you can see a live look on the ground there in Caracas. We're being told by journalists there on the ground that this is actually a supporters of Nicolas Maduro protest. So these people are government officials and other protesters there who are against the United States military action. On the other side, we've gotten reports from people in Doral, Florida, and Venezuelans in other parts of South Florida who are celebrating this, saying that a dictator has been ousted from the situation. So as we continue along, we know that Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, who were arrested, are going to stand trial here in the United States based on the Trump administration sending in United States military to arrest them. There is an indictment back from 2020 involved with trafficking, narco trafficking and terrorism charges that is the basis for this. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what this indictment is going to say, because Attorney General Pam Bondi said just this morning they will indict Nicolas Maduro. And the indictment accuses him of leading a, quote, corrupt, illegitimate government that for decades has leveraged government power to protect and promote illegal activity, including drug trafficking, end quote. The indictment alleges that the drug trafficking efforts, quote, enriched and entrenched Venezuela's political and military elite, end quote. And U.S. authorities here are really accusing Maduro of partnering with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world and bringing tons of cocaine into the United States. So at the end of the day, the United States is not just saying, hey, Maduro's turned a blind eye to activities, drug activities going on in his country. The United States is saying via this indictment that Maduro not only facilitated but also profited from illegal drug trafficking and violence. surveillance. Authorities estimate that as much as 250 tons of cocaine were trafficked from Venezuela by 2020. And according to the indictment, the drugs were moved on go-fast vessels, fishing boats, and container ships, or via planes from clandestine airstrips. So this is something that we're going to continue to keep you updated on. Very much heavily ties back into what we were seeing with the United States striking accused drug trafficking boats throughout the September and October months. So this is the point that we have come to. Now, as we continue, one thing I want to continue to keep you updated on as we look at the broader global political situation is that we are getting breaking news from Iran right now on the death toll regarding protests that have continued there in the country. So I want to show you video here as protests continue in Iran because we've just gotten an update that Iran's leaders say the rioters must be put in their place as the protest death toll reaches at least 10 people. So these protests have been gripping the Islamic Republic of Iran there as people are protesting higher prices and economic strife. We do know that this is going to be very interesting to watch because Iran is a close political ally of Venezuela, and now that Venezuela's leader has been captured, where do we go from here? We also know that Ayatollah Khamenei made his first comments on these protests on state TV in Iran, saying that the United States and Israel are stoking division in Iran. He talked a little bit about the rial's collapse against the U.S. dollar, which has a lot of these protesters upset. And he says that the United States is pushing the protests is basically pushing the protests and working against Iran's economy. So that's something we're going to continue to keep you updated on. But guys, in just 20 minutes, we know the president's going to come out and brief us. So here in the meantime, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'd like to get an update of your local weather forecast as we continue here locally in Atlanta. I know a lot of you are watching us from all over the world, and here in TikTok and YouTube, you guys have questions. I'm going to go through those here, try to find answers to maybe some of the things that you're wondering. We got your weather forecast on deck, and that's coming up next. Welcome back in. I'm Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Alex Forbes. A lot happening in the world. We're monitoring Venezuela. We're monitoring protests in Iran. Death toll up to 10 there today. But here locally, we know that you guys have a Saturday and a Sunday to get to. So let's talk about your weather forecast.
I don't take credit for the Saturday.
Okay.
I'll pass that on to somebody else. But tomorrow...
He's revoking blame, you guys.
Yes, exactly. Tomorrow, sign me up. All right, so it's foggy still out there across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia right now in many locations. We saw that rain come to an end through the overnight. And temperatures have not changed all that much from the overnight. 54 right now in Atlanta, 52 in Dalton, 48 in Blairsville, 55 in Eatonton, and 55 over in Thomaston at this hour. Now, you look at these numbers compared to this time yesterday, and we are still running warmer in most locations. The Gainesville sensor is doing its own thing, or just cover that one up, right? 3 in Athens, 3 degrees warmer, that is 2 degrees warmer in Eatonton, and 6 degrees warmer up in Blairsville. Okay, so here's Fox 5 Live Viper. We are all quiet across north and central Georgia now, but take a look at this, right? There goes the rain as it moves into the Carolinas here over the last little bit, and that's now history for us. So when we tally it all up, we are all closing in on 2 inches in LaGrange, 0.85 in Carrollton, 0.99 in McDonough, and then 1.13 over there in Eatonton. Up to the north, not as much, just a trace of rain there in Gainesville, only 14/100ths in Athens, and only 0.42 in Marietta. So look, here's the deal. We're all in at least moderate drought conditions, and we could have used this widespread rain in many more locations, but luckily we did see some of that heaviest in pockets of severe drought area, parts of Troup, Meriwether, and over into Upson County. So if only we could have expanded that a little more, that would have been great, but alas, we did not. So here's what we're going to do over the next couple of days, up to 71 by the time we get to Thursday. That is well above the norm for Atlanta. 54 is where we should be for this time of year, and that's going to be, as I mentioned, above the norm. We take a look at these low temperatures. Yeah, okay, so closer in the ballpark for the next couple of mornings, but then we're not in the ballpark. Then we get to Wednesday, overnight low temperature of 56. Friday, overnight low temperature of 56. We will have rain back in the picture by the time we get toward the end of next week, but between now and then, above the norm in the temperature department with only a 20% chance of showers Wednesday and Thursday.
Alex, I am very confused by these temperatures here in January, but I'll take them.
Yeah, you know, look, I was telling somebody the other day, anytime we get these wild temperature swings, we go from feeling like the teens into the 70s, back down to the teens, that's our opportunity to get severe weather. And we have not been doing that. So I will take the warmer temperatures and I will leave the severe weather alone and take the wind where we can get it.
Amen. I'm going to make the most of the weekend where it's not going to rain. Looks like we've got
Sunday,
some nice weather, on deck Sunday. So, Alex, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay, guys, let's move on to the news that has everyone talking. I know you guys have questions about it. Let's go back to Venezuela and talk about what's happening there. Right now, we have live pictures from Caracas, where we're being told this is a protest in support of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, government officials, and other supporters of him there. But I'm working to find more information. If we get live pictures of people who oppose Maduro and who are celebrating this ousting, I'm going to bring it to you here live because I want to continue to show you what's happening as we receive it. As of right now, we are 15 minutes away from President Trump coming out at 11 o'clock to brief us on this update from about Venezuela and the leader being captured there. Right now, I'd also like to update you as to what United States lawmakers are saying. We have lawmakers from both sides of the aisle who are reacting to this strike and who are reacting to what is going on. So let's bring it in. It looks like we have a tweet or a post from Senator Mike Johnson. And so as we take a look at this, he says he spoke in the last several hours with Secretary Rubio and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and we're going to hear from POTUS at 11. But he said that Venezuela, the action that the president took in Venezuela was justified to save American lives. As we continue to take a look at this, we know that the Trump administration has wanted to put an end to what it calls is narco terrorism from the Venezuelan president. So as you can see here from Mike Johnson, he talks about how the military came in and executed a precise and successful operation to remove Maduro from power. I'm looking through questions here in our TikTok chat. I know one person, I'm going to go back up and see if I see it. I know at least one of you was asking about the airspace above the Caribbean and Venezuela, saying that you are stranded in Venezuela Venezuela, or at least just in the Caribbean, because the airspace is closed. And yes, we do not have any updates as to when that will reopen, but I do know that the FAA closed the airspace over Venezuela as they were conducting this military activity. While that military activity may be concluded for now, it is unclear what may happen further. So as of right now, we do know that the Federal Aviation Administration has banned all commercial flights in Venezuelan airspace. So that's something that we're going to continue to monitor. As I get any new updates, I'll continue to let you know. I know that being stranded is no fun, and I'll continue to keep you updated if we find new info. Going through our YouTube and TikTok, if you guys have other questions on this story, let's take it from the top, as we're roughly 10 minutes from the president coming out and updating us. He may or may not be on time, but I'd like to give you an update. If you're just joining us here live, I'd like to give you an update as to where we stand with this attack, because early this morning, the United States captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, flew him out of the country in an extraordinary nighttime operation. It was accompanied by a flurry of strikes after months of escalating Trump administration pressure. They have been putting pressure on Venezuela for narco-terrorism. The Trump administration has said that Nicolas Maduro not only has turned a blind eye to drug trafficking and criminal enterprises within the country, specifically the Tren de Agua, but he's actually benefited and profited from these enterprises. So as we continue along, the president has said, or rather we know that the United States is deciding on next steps for Venezuela. The president appeared on Fox News this morning in a phone interview that we actually just listened to a little bit ago. We had about 5,000 of you here tuning in live, listening in to understand what happened. We know that the president watched from a room in Mar-a-Lago with his generals, watched that strike unfold. And one of the things that the Fox News host asked is whether or not this is sending a message to Mexico or to other future Venezuelan leaders, or rather Mexico and other South American leaders who may have similar criminal enterprises within their borders. The president said that he didn't necessarily mean for this to be a message to Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. He said that he thinks that she is a great person, but at the end of the day, the president did say he does not feel that she's truly in control of Mexico, rather the cartels are. So it's going to be interesting to see if this strike sets a precedent for action in other parts of South America. I think that's a big question I'm hearing from a lot of people, and a big concern I'm hearing for a lot of you here in our chat, is that even if you don't support Nicolas Maduro and you do not recognize him as a legitimate ruler, or you think that he is problematic, some people in our chat are saying, hey, I don't want the United States going in and taking action, and it's not our place to oust a foreign leader. The United States believes they have basis for this based on an indictment that was filed against Nicolas Maduro for corruption and trafficking charges back in 2020. And so this indictment now is going to be filed in New York. Attorney General Pam Bondi says this is coming, and that Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores are set to face trial with this. So the basis is that the United States says it carried out an arrest warrant for Maduro, and that's why they went in to get him. There's going to be more information that I hope we can get for you as we get updates from Mar-a-Lago. I'd like to go now. It looks like we have a live picture from Mar-a-Lago, so you can see what is going on. Peaceful there, of course, but this is there in Florida, where we're learning we're going to have an update from the president here in roughly 9 minutes. So as we continue here within our 10 o'clock hour, I would like to continue with some reaction from other leaders. And you guys, excuse me, I've been talking for a really long time this morning. So if you guys have questions or I missed something, just let me know. All of this is unscripted. We have a conversation about what's going on, and I try to answer your questions and let you know news updates as I get them. One thing to keep in mind is that others are reacting. President, or rather Vice President J.D. Vance actually posted and talked a bit about why the United States did what it did. So I'd like to bring that in live now. J.D. Vance saying the president offered multiple off-ramps understandably to Venezuela here, but it was very clear throughout this process the drug trafficking must stop and the stolen oil must be returned to the United States. Maduro is the newest person to find out that President Trump means what he says. And then he gave kudos to brave special operators who pulled off a truly impressive operation. We did learn from President Trump's phone interview with Fox News that no U.S. forces were believed to have been killed. It does sound like there may have been injuries to some U.S. forces, but we're working to find out more about that. And we're also working to find out more about as to where we're going to go from here as it relates to the future of Venezuela when we look at, okay, the vice president is now in power, and what is next for Nicolas Maduro and his wife. But we've seen lawmakers on both sides of the aisle comment on this and talk about it. So I can't see all of the comments that we have pulled up. So let's just bring in some comments now, and I can read them to you as lawmakers react, because some lawmakers were talking about how they had been briefed by the president. I know Mike Lee of Utah talked about how he had had a phone conversation with Secretary Marco Rubio, saying, and let me bring this banner down so you guys can see the full thing, saying that he looks forward to learning what, if anything, might constitutionally justify action in the absence of a declaration of war or authorization of use of military force. So Mike Lee is a Republican from Utah, and he was briefed by the president's cabinet because Secretary Rubio called him. At the same time, though, he is saying he wants to know more as to the basis as to why the president did this without congressional oversight. So that's something we have seen from both sides, Republican and Democrat, wanting to know more information, wanting to know why the president felt he needed to act without congressional approval. The president does have some authority to do strikes like this, but as we continue here, I do have breaking news that I want to continue to keep you updated on. As of right now, let's go back here live. We just got an update. Delta is canceling all Caribbean flights, closely monitoring the ongoing situation in the region. But early this morning, Delta Airlines began canceling all flights in compliance with the Federal Aviation Administration, because as I just mentioned earlier, the Federal Aviation Administration closed the airspace in the Caribbean. As cancellations are processed, customers are going to receive notifications via the Fly Delta app. So this is having ramifications, obviously, not just in Venezuela and South America, but throughout the Caribbean as we continue along here. So that's something that I want to continue to keep you guys updated on. As of right now, you guys, my phone has died for TikTok, so I'm going to see if I can get in another device to check your TikTok comments. Let me ask my producer, Ella, here. Ella, okay, look, she has her headphones in. I'm going to check in with her just now. Ella, when you get a chance, can I get a phone to look at TikTok comments? I want to make sure I'm answering questions that people are able to bring me. Ella to the rescue. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going down through here. Corey commented, looking through comments, that we did the same thing in Panama in 1990. And Corey, you would be right. History does tend to repeat itself, because actually 36 years ago to this day, the United States ousted Panamanian leader Noriega back in 1990. So this is something that we're continuing to follow and trying to get an understanding as to where the United States believes that we go from here, where Venezuela wants and its people. We know that a lot of people in Venezuela and here in the United States, Venezuelans in the United States, specifically South Florida, we've gotten reports of them celebrating the ousting of Nicolas Maduro. At the same time, we've also seen some supporters of Nicolas Maduro gather and demonstrate in Caracas. We have live images there now. People are standing, it looks like, in a square holding signs, shouting, chanting, and talking a little bit more about what's going on. We did listen in a little bit ago, and people are speaking in Spanish. I know we have people here on our live stream, both on TikTok, YouTube, and Fox Local, watching from all around the world right now. So not just here in Atlanta where we're streaming from, but all across the world. So I know that that as you guys stream with us, some of you may understand Spanish. So if you want us to take a Spanish and take this Spanish language live shot and listen in, we can do that for just a little bit, but you tell me. One person is asking who is in charge of Venezuela now, and that would be the vice president of Venezuela. Under the Venezuelan government, that would be Delcy Rodriguez. So he is now taking power under Venezuelan law. But there's no confirmation, though, that has officially happened. We just know that under Venezuelan law, the vice president is supposed to assume power. But Delcy Rodriguez, a woman, did issue a statement after the strike demanding proof of life of Maduro and his wife, and saying that this is an imperialistic attack on the Venezuelan country. So as I continue looking through here, some of you say you're watching from Louisiana. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Looking back through to see if there's any other comments and things that you may have questions on. One thing to keep in mind, I know a lot of you are dealing with canceled flights right now. We just got a comment a little bit ago about how someone is stranded. Corey commented saying they are stranded, and saying that because of the airspace over the Caribbean, being limited, especially as it relates to Venezuela, their flights are being canceled and they are stranded. So that's something we're going to keep you updated on. But I'm putting in an update here. So if you're watching but you're not listening, let me update my banner and get you guys an update as we continue, because Delta Airlines has canceled all Caribbean flights as it monitors this ongoing situation in the region. But we're monitoring what lawmakers are saying, what all of you are saying, and any questions that you may have. We know that we have seen reports of people celebrating in Florida as to Maduro being removed from power. So as we get those updates, if we get live pictures of that, I'll bring it to you here live. A lot of people have talked about how they have suffered under Maduro's rule. And then at the same time, we've also heard from other people who say that they did not want him in power, but at the same time, they didn't want the United States to take him out. So hearing a lot of opinions. I'm here just looking through your comments, seeing what you guys might have to say, and bringing you the facts as we get them in. Looking through here, it does appear we have a new update from the Associated Press. But as we look through, let me see what new information this might have for you guys. Maduro and his wife were taken overnight from their home on a military base. So when we saw that video just a little bit ago of the airstrikes there in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, you get a picture as to what was happening. We know that at least 7 explosions were felt from people who were on the ground there. And as we watch this, people say that it felt like earthquakes. They were going out in the streets trying to figure out what happened. We also know that the United States struck a military hangar in Venezuela. We don't know if any civilian installations were struck. Venezuela says that they were, but that has not been confirmed by the United States. But the United States did capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, and took them out of the nation. Maduro and his wife, this is the new update from President Trump as he spoke on the phone to Fox News. The president says that that Maduro and his wife were aboard a U.S. warship on their way to New York to face criminal charges. So that does appear to actually be where they are right now. And the United States is evaluating next steps for Venezuela. But President Trump said to Fox News that they're going to be involved in it very much. And the legal authority of this attack is a bit unclear. We do know some lawmakers were briefed, especially those that sit on House and Senate intelligence committees. They were briefed, but there are others that were working to learn more information as to what they were told and getting reaction there. So if you guys have questions, we're going to continue to keep you updated here. I know that at 11 o'clock, the president is supposed to come out and brief. It looks like we are getting a picture up here shortly. I'm looking off to my right, and I will bring that to you here live. So just hang out. I know you guys are probably ready to listen and to understand what is going on. So as that comes in, we are going to let you listen in live. We're going to take the entire news update from the president in full so you can listen without interruptions. But we just need to wait until that shot comes up, and then we will be continuing right here. But thank you guys so much for streaming along. I'm Ariel Onstadt, and we are continuing to cover what is happening and unfolding in Venezuela this morning. Breaking news. It was an early morning attack as the president launched strikes to capture Venezuela's president. We do know that Venezuela's president and his wife are going to come to the United States to face criminal charges in New York City, and they will be indicted there. That's according to Attorney General Pam Bondi. When we look at the details of the indictment, the reason the president will be indicted, according to that, according to the details in that piece of legal document, we know that it stems from what the indictment calls a criminal enterprise that Maduro not only turned a blind eye to, but, quote, profited from and helped run. So that is something that the indictment accuses him of, is funneling a lot of cocaine, a lot of other illicit drugs to the United States and profiting from those criminal enterprises. So that is what they say is the basis for carrying out an arrest warrant on foreign soil in South America. Here in North America, we know that the president was asked whether or not this sends a message to Mexico's president. And as you know, Mexico is governed by President Claudia Sheinbaum. And one of the things that the president said is that he did not necessarily mean for this to be a message towards the president of Mexico, but he did say he did not think that the president there had full control of the country. He thinks that Mexico is run by drug cartels. So one of the questions a lot of people are asking is what this means for the future of the region, both in South America, North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Could other countries face similar consequences from President Trump if they do not comply with this trafficking push of narcotics? Because the president has said he's going to be cracking down very hard on drug smugglers and others who fuel the illegal trade of drugs here into the United States and kill Americans. So that's something that we're going to continue to keep in mind. Also keep in mind, Venezuela is very close with Iran and China, and that does factor into the global political picture that we are looking at. As we continue, okay, I'd like to bring in an image from Mar-a-Lago. It looks like we have a live picture just up here as we are awaiting a live briefing from the president. We actually have two live pictures up now. The press briefing room where the media is standing ready. I see a lot of reporters, both foreign and domestic. You're taking a live look from Mar-a-Lago there. As we pull in these live images, we have the podium with the presidential seal. We also have a lot of news reporters waiting to ask the president questions. So you're taking a live look at this here from Mar-a-Lago as the president is set to update us. Some of you are asking why the president is in Mar-a-Lago and not the White House. The president's been in Mar-a-Lago for Christmas. Let's see if we can bring in both of those shots and just stay on them as we wait. We're continuing to follow this here in just a little bit. But we're going to continue to keep you updated. Let's see if I'm getting any new information as we take a look at this. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, back to the question as to why the president has been in Mar-a-Lago, is he's been there for the Christmas holiday and New Year's holiday. He's been hosting some foreign leaders. We saw Ukrainian president, Israeli prime minister, both hosted at Mar-a-Lago over just before the New Year's Eve holiday, as the president has been trying to make progress on peace deals with both countries. But right now you're taking a live look from Mar-a-Lago as the president is about to update us there. And looking through your comments and questions to see if you guys have anything else you want to know as we wait for this to begin. I know over 2,500 of you streaming live with us here on TikTok, and we have, of course, a lot of you here on YouTube as well. So if there's anything you have questions on or you want me to clarify, let me know. Keep in mind a news update we just got that's breaking. Delta Airlines has canceled all Caribbean flights as it's closely monitoring the situation ongoing in Latin America right now. They began canceling flights early this morning, and they did that in compliance with FAA airspace closures in the Caribbean. The Federal Aviation Administration has actually closed the airspace over Venezuela while these attacks were happening early this morning. So we're going to keep you updated as that unfolds. As soon as we get any information as to whether that airspace has reopened, we'll let you know. But we do know some of you are stranded. We had people here in our chat asking about what they know, or what we know rather, about the about the airspace being closed because they were stranded and not where they were intending to go. So we're going to continue to keep you updated on that. As we continue here, I'm going to get a sip of water. It looks like they're beginning to set up. I see we have the president. I see we have reporters. The podium is up, and it looks like people are filing in and getting ready to ask questions. But let's stay on this shot for just a little bit. Guys, the White House has issued a soft 5-minute warning, so that tells us that we probably have, if I were to guess, roughly 15 minutes until we hear from the president. As we get more info, I will continue to let you know. Let me get in a new update here. Let's see. Okay. Alex Forbes to the rescue, bringing me his phone to let me see what's going on. Okay, we have a new update from Attorney General Pam Bondi, and she has unsealed the indictment as it relates to Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores. They are going to be charged and indicted in the Southern District of New York on narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and other charges. Pam Bondi says that they are going to face the full wrath of the American justice system on American soil in American courts. And she says that this is because the president of Venezuela and his wife are two narco trafficking terrorists. And she says she wants them to face justice. They've already been indicted, but they will soon be in New York to face those charges and to stand trial, according to Pam Bondi. Now, keep in mind, the president did say in his phone interview with Fox News that he believes that the Venezuelan president and his wife were on a U.S. warship. They were captured from a military base and airlifted out by the United States military, brought to a U.S. warship where they're being brought up to the Southern District of New York to face those charges. I'm updating our lower banner here, you guys, as we are waiting the president to brief on Venezuela and the situation that's unfolding there. Let me continue to put this down as we progress here within our 11 o'clock hour. It looks like we have more shots coming up as the president is beginning to get ready to come out and update us. We know we have we heard from Network a soft 5-minute warning. That was 2 minutes ago. So hopefully here within the next roughly 15 minutes, we're going to get an update. But we have seen some lawmakers beginning to react to the situation. One thing that Vice President J.D. Vance actually said is that the United States gave Venezuela off-ramps, gave them opportunities to stop trafficking drugs, but the Vice President says it was very clear throughout the process the drug trafficking must stop, stolen oil must be returned to the United States, and Maduro is the newest person to find out that the President Trump means what he says. So that is something that J.D. Vance posted on X. Let's go to some other lawmakers' posts as well. We have Representative Buddy Carter here in Georgia. So for those of you here streaming in Atlanta, getting a local update with us, Representative Buddy Carter actually posted as well and talked about the situation. So we'll bring that in. But as we continue to look, we're seeing some other reactions from other lawmakers. I'm going to bring down our lower banner here so you can read the entire post. But Buddy Carter tweeted saying that Nicolas Maduro and his wife will now face American justice for narco-terrorism, sending drugs into our country and killing our children. What's significant about a lot of this and the difference under the Trump administration is that we are now seeing drug trafficking organizations being marked as terroristic organizations and terroristic threats. That is something that is new because previously terrorist designations were reserved for organizations like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, organizations that wanted to carry out political threats and that had political gains and political purposes, if you will. Drug trafficking organizations, really their purpose is profit. And now we're seeing that despite that, they are being designated under the Trump administration as terrorist organizations, hence the term narco-terrorism that we are seeing from President Trump and the White House. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. I'd like to continue cycling through different tweets and posts from lawmakers if we can. We'll just keep them going and we'll just keep reading up whatever has come up. So this one from Mike Lee, and saying that he got off the phone with Secretary Marco Rubio, saying that Nicolas Maduro has been arrested by U.S. personnel to stand trial on criminal charges here in the U.S., and that the action we saw tonight was deployed to protect and defend those executing the arrest warrant. So this is actually Mike Lee from Utah, senator there, talking about his conversation with Marco Rubio. We know that Marco Rubio did brief multiple lawmakers about the situation before the strikes were carried out, but a lot of people are asking questions, wanting to understand what happened and whether or not the president acted within his constitutional authority in carrying these strikes out. So that's a question that we're hopefully going to get more answers on as lawmakers are now being briefed. We are awaiting a news update from Mar-a-Lago soon from the president. So I want to see, as we continue here, if we can bring in a live look at Mar-a-Lago. I'd like to bring in maybe a 3-box here so you guys can always have a shot at all times of the podium at Mar-a-Lago where we're awaiting the president to speak. I could be in one of these boxes, and then maybe we also take a look and we'll continue to keep you updated as we get new information. But let me actually change here. If you're just joining, we are about to hear from the president. This news briefing set to start at 11 a.m. We are roughly 13 minutes behind schedule. We're hoping to get more information here soon. As we continue, I'll keep you updated on that. But if you are just joining us, Delta Airlines has canceled all Caribbean flights over the airspace there in the Caribbean to make sure that they are complying with the FAA because the Federal Aviation Administration has closed the airspace in Venezuela. So let's go back to taking a look at what's going on there. We're continuing to get updates from Network as to the situation. They're letting us know when the president might come out. They're letting us know when we might see President Trump step up to the podium. So let me go ahead and check from Network and see what updates we're getting from people there on the ground. We know that this is actually about to start. So we just got an news alert that this is about to start. So looks like we are waiting the president to step out at any moment. Let's stay here on this shot right here. I'll keep you guys right here as we await this. As we get any new information, we're going to bring that up. We're just watching live. You're watching this unfolding live with me guys right now in real time. As soon as the president steps up to the podium, we're going to take that in full. We're going to listen to it in full. There won't be any interruptions. So you guys can understand what is going on, because there are a lot of questions right now. We've seen a lot of people from Venezuela here in the United States and in Venezuela unsure as to what's going on and what this means for the future of the country. A lot of people understandably afraid for family members that were there. There's no update as to whether anyone was killed in Venezuela. We hope to get updates on casualties soon. We do know that it sounds like no United States troops were killed. That was according to a phone interview with the president, but that some U.S. troops may have been injured. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we get information on that. But I'm looking through TikTok, looking through YouTube, seeing what questions that you may have on the situation. I see some people say that Venezuela's happy. Some people saying Venezuela is not happy. We saw live images of a protest where people were supporting President Nicolas Maduro. But then at the same time, we've also gotten reports of people in Florida and other parts of Venezuela celebrating because they feel that Nicolas Maduro's regime was oppressive, that they couldn't afford to live there in the country, and the situation was very bleak. And so they're excited that he has been ousted from power. Regardless of how you feel about the situation, we're working to get you the facts and working to get you an understanding as to what actually unfolded, what happened in the early morning hours when this attack was carried out. I also want to continue to keep you updated as what's next in terms of the region, what this means for South America, and as we look here in North America, in Mexico, because the president did say in his phone interview with Fox News that this could mean a precedent for potentially other countries in Latin America that do not abide by his calls to stop trafficking drugs illegally to the United States. And, Nicolas Maduro and his wife have already been indicted, but the indictment was unsealed, and we were able to get a closer look at the charges being being brought against them. And one of the things that the indictment revealed is that Nicolas Maduro, according to the details within that legal document, and his wife not only turned a blind eye as a leader of this nation to drug trafficking and criminal enterprises like the Tren de Agua, but also profited from it. They say that Nicolas Maduro profited from the drug trafficking trade and encouraged it, and that is part of the reason why the United States is bringing him here to the Southern District of New York to stand trial and to face an American court system and face American justice. That was according to Attorney General Pam Bondi. She posted about that. It's also interesting as we look at today, the anniversary, 36 years ago, the United States ousted Panama's leader. And this is something that is interesting when you consider how many times that this has happened, because nothing, history repeats itself. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. So this is 36 years ago to the day that the United States ousted Panama's leader. Some of you guys have been discussing that here in the TikTok and YouTube chats. But I also want to continue to keep you updated. We have over 5,000 of you here live on TikTok. We're just waiting for President Trump to update on Venezuela. As soon as he does, I will quiet. We're going to bring him up in full and let you guys watch this live with us. So many of you have been hanging out all morning since this has started. You have a lot of questions as to what unfolded in Venezuela this morning. So we will continue to keep you updated as we get any new information that comes down, but we will hopefully learn updates from the president here shortly. We did play just maybe roughly an hour ago an entire 15-minute phone interview the president had with Fox News. There were some interesting details that came out of that phone interview, like the president did not believe that any United States troops were killed. He did say that it was possible that some may have been hurt, but that we're working to confirm that. We also know that the Venezuelan leader and his wife are on a U.S. warship currently bound for the United States. They were on their residence on a military base in Venezuela. So Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, actually lived on that military base when they were captured by the United States government. As we continue, some other facts and details to keep you updated on. The FAA has warned commercial and private U.S. pilots that airspace over Venezuela and the small island nation of Curacao are going to be affected, that airspace is closed. And the country's off limits because of the safety to flights in the area with this ongoing military activity. So if you're looking at a map, Curacao is near just above Venezuela. It's the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, just right there north of Venezuela. And this was the airspace, Curacao in Venezuela, that was closed. But Delta Airlines took it a step further and as a result canceled all Caribbean flights. So not just those down closer to South America, but canceled all Caribbean flights because they want to monitor the safety in that region. So a lot of people here in our chat have been talking about how they're stranded at their destinations and they're not able to get out because their flights have been canceled. If you're in our chat and that's happening to you, I'm so sorry you're going through that, but let me know what's going on. Give us an update because you're the primary source. You're on the ground. You're letting us know what's happening. As we continue through here, some people are talking about how this is just wild news to wake up to. Absolutely. I think a lot of us are looking at this and going, 2026, we're starting the new year off with a bit of a wild start. But we know that the president has been ramping pressure up on Venezuela for some time. We have seen that the president targeted alleged drug trafficking vessels starting in September, and that's really ramped up from September until now. We also know that the president back in February of last year actually designated these drug trafficking organizations as terrorist entities, which was a significant change because for a long time you saw terrorist labels being applied to organizations that had political purpose. You know, they wanted political change like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, etc. But now we're seeing these organizations like drug trafficking organizations that have profit as their main goal, not political change as their main goal, being designated as terrorist organizations. So that's something that we're going to continue to monitor. But as we follow along, and I'm giving you more information on the timeline, I just kind of want to keep you updated as to the context of this, the pressure that we have been seeing ramped up throughout this past year as the Trump administration has been cracking down on Venezuela. One question that we heard when the United States was really starting to put pressure on drug boats in the region and allege what they believe are drug trafficking vessels, we saw that the United States, what question was, does the United States want to stop these drug trafficking vessels, or is regime change ultimately the goal? Is the United States trying to stop and end Nicolas Maduro's reign in power? As we see today, that question does seem to be answered because they have ousted him, captured him and his wife, and are bringing him here to the United States. As to what is next for Venezuela, unclear. We know that under Venezuelan law, Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president of Venezuela, is supposed to take power next. It is unclear as to whether or not that has happened. So we're going to continue to keep you updated, but I'm scrolling down through TikTok to see what other questions that you guys may have. And someone is from Trinidad talking here on our TikTok chat, talking about what's going on. Someone else is talking about how they are watching the airspace because they're actually stranded in the Caribbean. So let me look there. I think that's on our YouTube. If you guys have other questions or comments that you want me to discuss, just let me know. But one of the things, as we continue to look at what lawmakers are saying and as reaction has emerged from lawmakers, we know that Connecticut Representative Jim Hines, actually the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, said he had seen no evidence that would justify Trump striking Venezuela without approval from Congress. Representative Jim Hines is asking for an immediate briefing by the Trump administration on its, quote, plan to ensure stability in the region and its legal justification for this decision. One thing also to keep in mind is that we've seen it's kind of a bipartisan idea, right, between both Republicans and Democrats. Even though Republicans may support the president and they support his action today, some are still asking why the president felt he needed to act today, why he felt he had to act now and carry this action out. Hopefully we'll get that information from a news briefing here at 11 o'clock. The president now roughly 25 minutes behind schedule. That was supposed to start at 11 a.m. and I estimate the president won't come out now for another 5 minutes or so. As soon as we get an immediate update from network that this is happening, I will go to it live. We're going to listen with you live, and we're going to take this in full so you can get an update. I understand a lot of you are concerned about family members in Venezuela, in Caracas, and we have an audience here streaming with us from around the world on YouTube, TikTok, and right here on Fox Local. We know we're based in Atlanta. If you're streaming, we're based out of Atlanta, Fox 5 Atlanta, and we love having you guys and joining the conversation. But because we have so many people streaming with us from all around the world, I want to make sure I'm addressing your comments and concerns because I know this affects a lot of your family members. So if you have things you want me to look up for you, I can do that. As we get updates in from our newsroom, from network, I'm going to let you know. And as we get updates from the Associated Press, I bring those in as soon as I get them to tell you guys what is happening. But we know that some people were in the streets there in Caracas in Venezuela. Venezuela's government actually called people to get to the streets to protest the United States government. We did see armed people and uniformed members of a civilian militia actually head to a Caracas neighborhood, but that was actually a neighborhood that's really been a stronghold of the ruling party there. So as this continues, we're going to see a lot of different thoughts and opinions from both sides. Some people we've seen from Florida reacting, talking about how they're afraid for their family members, and they're really excited because now they feel their family members are free. They feel they were living under a very oppressive regime, and now they feel like they have that freedom with Maduro not in power and being arrested by the United States. At the same time, we see other people voicing concerns about the United States setting a precedent for arresting a foreign leader, and what does this entail? Does this mean future arrests for other leaders? Does this mean that the United States could take action against other countries in Latin America that it believes is violating the policies it sets forth as it relates to narco-terrorism? Basically, if you're trafficking drugs to the United States, does the United States have basis to go and arrest? These are all questions that a lot of people are asking, and they're curious about the precedent that we see today. I can tell you it's really interesting that today marks marks the 36-year anniversary of the United States ousting Panamanian leader, Panama, there in Central America. So we're going to continue to keep you updated from that situation. One thing also, the Associated Press actually spoke to a Caracas resident who said he feels scared after this attack. He's unsure as to what was going on. Many families couldn't sleep. And as we saw unfold earlier, we saw different airstrikes unfolding within that capital city. So as we await the president to come out, we're going to go back to that as soon as we get it. But maybe let's just take a quick break. If you're seeing us streaming live right now and you're just joining, let me show you video of those strikes so you know what we're talking about. I'd like to show you what unfolded in Venezuela this morning. They believe at least 7 strikes happened there in the capital city. The United States targeted a military hangar where the president and his wife lived on base there, Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores, his wife. But we've also heard from the Venezuelan government that the United States targeted civilian installations. That's unclear. We're not really sure if that has happened, but we're going to continue to keep you updated on the situation as things unfold here. One other thing to keep in mind is that people are asking questions as to what is next for the future of Venezuela, whether or not anyone was killed. That's something that we want to know about. You're just taking a look at the video as we're watching what unfolded in the early morning hours. Someone is asking, Anto's asking, how many people died. And Anto, we do not have that information yet. We are not sure how many Venezuelans were killed in this attack. On the United States side, President Trump said in a phone interview that no U.S. troops were killed, but that some might have been injured. So that's something that we're going to continue to keep you updated on. As I scroll through your chat to kind of see what other questions you have, Ray is asking, could Cuba's president be next? And I think, Ray, you're asking a question that a lot of people want to know. A lot of people are wondering if this attack is going to set a precedent for future countries in South, Central, and North America, and what that means for the future of the region. One thing the president said in his phone interview with Fox News, they actually asked him if the president is trying to send a message to Claudia Sheinbaum. She's the president in Mexico. And President Trump said not necessarily. He said that it wasn't his intent to send a message to her. But he did say he does not believe she's truly in control of her country. He does think that Mexico is run by drug cartels. So the president said that it's something he wants to monitor, because as you can imagine, it's a very volatile situation. But one difference here, with Venezuela is that the United States is arguing that Venezuela's president didn't just turn a blind eye to the drug trafficking, trade, and criminal activity happening in his country, but that he also facilitated it and profited from it. So that is part of the reason why the president has said that they want to prosecute Maduro under American law on American soil. I want to give you guys an update from Network, because roughly 20 minutes ago, we did get a soft 5-minute warning that the president was going to come out. As you can see, it is 11:30, and we still do not have President Trump. So he is set to come out at Mar-a-Lago and brief us. As soon as we get that, we're going to let you know. So I'm trying to check in, let you know where we stand. Right now, I'm just going to keep hanging out with you guys, telling you what is going on. As so many of you are streaming live with us here on TikTok, YouTube, Fox Local. If you got questions and you're listening and streaming and you want to know what's going on, please let me know. Right now, we have gotten no other guidance from the White House as to when the president is going to come out, but we're going to continue to let you know as soon as we get anything from the pool. So it's safe to say, I think at this point, that because we're going to get an update as soon as the president comes out, I want to go ahead and take a very quick break. And as soon as we get an update, I'm going to continue to let you know right here. And we're going to come right back. But thanks guys so much for streaming with us. But we have more news to come, so don't go anywhere. We're waiting for this news conference to start. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We are awaiting a news conference that is set to happen soon in Mar-a-Lago, where President Trump is going to brief us on the United States attacking Venezuela this morning and ousting its leader, Nicolas Maduro, from power. We've got a lot of things to talk about, and I'd like to run it from the top. If you're just joining our live stream and you want to know what's happening, what is going on, we've got a lot. So early this morning, and I'd like to go to video, as you can see to the right, the podium where we await the president to come out. As soon as we get an update on this, as soon as we see the president walk out, trust me, we're going to go to it live. We're going to take it in full, and you can watch. But in the meantime, let me give you context, catch you up to where we are today, because you're taking a look at video from the strikes that the United States launched in an extraordinary nighttime military operation. We know that at least 7 strikes were heard across the capital of Venezuela, that capital being Caracas. And the Trump administration has been really ramping up power on Nicolas Maduro's government for some time now. The Trump administration has accused him of trafficking drugs here to the United States, among many other things. I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. But as it relates to this attack and just the nuts and bolts of what was heard, we know that some fires were started because of this attack. We also know that people were really scared running out into the streets in Venezuela trying to understand what was going on. The legal authority for the attack, that's the big question. A lot of people, both right here, you, me, on the ground, trying to figure out whether or not the president has the constitutional authority for an attack like this. But it's not the first time, right? This is nothing new. We've seen the United States carry out these kinds of attacks multiple times before, ousting leaders from power. The whether or not argument is something that you guys can discuss here in the comments, and something I'll pursue with you in just a little bit. But for now, I'd really like to focus on the facts and keep you updated as to where we are headed, because the president launched this attack. A lot of questions about whether or not he had the constitutional authority to do it. We've seen reaction from some lawmakers. We know that multiple lawmakers were briefed ahead of this attack. Now, while the president did not get congressional approval, his cabinet, via Secretary of State Marco Rubio, called senior members on the intelligence committees of the Senate and the House, letting them know that this attack would be happening. So I know a lot of lawmakers on both sides, Republican and Democrat, doesn't really matter what side you're on, both are curious as to why the president felt he needed to brief now, and why the president felt that he needed to act now. And why he felt that he had to carry out this attack at this time. But this has been an ongoing situation in Venezuela, something that this pressure has just been ramping up, especially in the past few months. As it relates to the indictment, I told you I wanted to talk about that, so let's get into it. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said Maduro and his wife are going to face charges after an indictment in New York. So they've already been indicted, Maduro and his wife. But now the United States is basically saying that they have arrested them to stand trial and face those charges. The indictment accuses the Maduro and his wife of profiting from a criminal enterprise and the drug trafficking trade there in Venezuela, and further facilitating that trade here to the United States. The indictment was unsealed by Attorney General Pam Bondi, and it took us through some of the details listed within it, and we were able to get maybe a clearer picture as to what things looked like and where we are headed with this investigation. Because before, while we knew he was facing charges, we didn't really know what the details of that indictment had. And now we're getting a clearer picture, because Attorney General Pam Bondi says it's important that he faces American justice on American soil in American courts. But it wasn't just Maduro that was indicted back in 2020. It was actually some other Venezuelan officials who were indicted as well, and they were all indicted on narco-terrorism conspiracy charges. It was not previously known that Maduro's wife was also indicted in that investigation. So that is interesting, and that also kind of shows a little bit now why Maduro has been arrested along with Celia Flores, his wife, not just Maduro himself. But we do know that the couple right now, Maduro and Flores, are aboard the U.S. warship Iwo Jima, and they're headed to New York, where they're going to face that prosecution. After Venezuelan leader Maduro has been ousted from power, what's next? A lot of people curious as to what is next for the country and where we go from here. Under Venezuelan law, we do know that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez is supposed to take power. She is the vice president and ruling party leader. But she is the vice president. But as we continue here, we know that it is not clear whether or not she has actually assumed power in that country. But she posted a statement accusing the United States of this imperialistic attack and has urged citizens to take to the streets and protest against the United States actions. So as we continue, let's go along here. I see someone here in the chat saying that Trump released a picture of Maduro captured. I'm not sure if we have that just yet. Let me check our feeds and see if we have those images. I want to be able to make sure we bring that into you guys live. As we get new information in, new video, I try to bring it to you as quickly as possible. It does look like we have video here of Venezuelans celebrating in Florida after the attack and celebrating Nicolas Maduro being ousted from power. Oh, it looks like, okay, guys, let's go out live. President Trump has stepped up to the podium. Let's listen in.
The United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors, operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement, caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea. We're just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. And that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York. and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana. And we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there. When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires. That's when they had the riots in Los Angeles. We did a great job. Got no credit for it whatsoever, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need the credit. But we'll be pulling out when they need us. They'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst. They say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari. What happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries, and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. and we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men, and I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the President said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026. And under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raisin Kane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise, and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel, so as the President said, they could be brought to justice. And as the President said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the President to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the President ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective, and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the President said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
we should make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when he tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this, we're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba? Mr. President.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President.
You said that the U.S. is going to run Venezuela. So who's in power right now?
Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but it's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it, but we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. and we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
It's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Mr. President, what's the group you mentioned that would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be. You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview, and then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, you said he's got to watch his ass. And today, he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So, just what your message is about that.
He has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
If I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We were. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
Mr. President, you were one of the only people to watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. The safe place is all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. People were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. There was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average. regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it.
So where's Maduro?
Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact whereabouts?
Well, eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards. Did that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's why we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
Mr. President, can you? How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. We're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and the drugs?
And Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to. In other words, we'll be selling oil. Probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that?
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we wouldn't have. We would be exactly where Venezuela was in terms of, I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military troops to provide? They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave, who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro, and right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela
that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back. Yeah.
So, Mr. President, what's being done to protect Americans in the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
Are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago.
And what can you
okay,
say
wait,
about
behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba's an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, they basically, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba. They tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Are you cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's an
The answer is yes.
Mr. President,
is the U.S. aware of the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
No, we haven't. Really, no, we haven't.
Mr. President, on Monday.
I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial. So it's not going to cost us anything.
So the U.S. isn't going to dedicate money to.
Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year is going to be a great thing, and the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Mr. President, U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well, I don't want to get into the conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
Mr. President, can you explain, you said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole small group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Mr. President, you referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that country?
No, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Unless it's a bad question, in which case Putin. I'll go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin? Well,
okay.
That's always nice.
You had a phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't. We never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this intelligence.
I'm not thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people.
There was that intelligence.
I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to go back to peace. So I only give 1/4. I thought the easiest one would be, one of the easier ones would be Russia, Ukraine. It's not. And they both have done some pretty bad things. And look, that's Biden's war. That's not my war. But I want to stop the lives. Did you see where last month, 30,000, it was 27,000 the month before. 30,000, mostly soldiers, were killed this last month. 30,000. I want to stop that. You know, I got NATO to pay 5% instead of the 2% that they weren't paying. They weren't paying 2, now they pay 5. And we send them a lot of munitions, we send them a lot of things, missiles and various other things, a lot. And they pay. The United States is not losing money. We're probably making money on that. It's the last thing I care about. I just want to stop all those people. We're losing 25,000, 30,000 human beings that come from 2 places that are very far away. But if I can stop, because it's something I've been pretty good at doing, deals, I guess. It's all a deal. Life is a big deal. But if I can stop that war and stop 30,000 young people, in addition to the fact that people are being killed in Kiev, people are being killed in other cities throughout, a much smaller number, but they're being killed, viciously killed. So I'm not happy about it. I thought that would be something that would get solved. We have Mr. Witkoff here. I think that we're making progress, but that's a war that should have never happened. If I were president, it would have never happened. Putin says it. Everybody says it. If I were president, that would have never happened. But I inherited that war. That was Joe Biden, Zelensky, and Putin. I came into the situation, and it's a mess. And I will say this. I watched an operation last night that was so precise, that was so brilliant. I mean, it was incredible. If we had our people, like this general, and our people involved, that war would not have gone on very long. That I can tell you. That war, to use an old term, that war has become a bloodbath, and we want it to get stopped. Thank you very much.
You're listening as President Trump wraps up a news conference where he talks about what happened in Venezuela this morning as the United States launched a full-scale military attack in order to capture the president, Nicolas Maduro, at that time. I want to recap a little bit about what the president said, but first, let me show you a photo of Nicolas Maduro. He is the Venezuelan president that has now been ousted from power. This is the photo that President Donald Trump shared, showing Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima, and both Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, are on board that United States warship headed for New York. The president did not say where Maduro is going to be held when he comes to New York. That is a question a lot of reporters were asking. He said officials are going to work out where he's going to be held in the meantime, but that he is on his way to New York to face charges for a 2020 indictment about a narco-trafficking conspiracy. I want to get into a little bit more about what the president said, but again, let me take you to Florida because I want to show you reactions to how some Floridians, Venezuelans, were reacting in Doral. You can see actually some celebrations as they were waving Venezuelan flags and showing their reactions to this event. Let's listen because we spoke to some residents there on the ground. Let's listen and hear what they had to say.
I was away. I was watching a show. Meanwhile, I was watching the show. Then my sister came up to me and she was like, "Oh, they bombed Venezuela." And I was like, "What? What do you mean they bombed Venezuela?" All my hair is like, my skin was like all waking up, and I was like, "What? Are you kidding? Are you joking? This is not funny." And then she was like, "Just go and see it online." And I went online. I was like looking at all the news, and I was just like with like the feeling of I want to cry, but also I'm happy. And I couldn't sleep, so I decided to come here and see and feel with the other people the same feelings that they're feeling.
So as you can see, a lot of people there in Florida are celebrating, FaceTiming family members and friends abroad. Right now, we do not know whether or not there were any Venezuelans killed in these strikes. That's something we're still working to figure out. But in that news briefing, President Trump did say that no American lives or equipment was lost in this attack. And you're taking a look at that right now. As you can see, the video from where this happened there in the capital city of Caracas. Some other things to note that came out of that update from the president, the huge question everyone is asking there, who is going to run Venezuela in the meantime? And we did get a bit of a clearer picture, but still so many questions. The president says the United States is going to run Venezuela until there is a safe transition of power. Now, what does that look like? Because as of right now, we don't see any U.S. forces on the ground in Venezuela. This was an air attack, not a ground invasion. And people are asking, what does this really look like? There's no sign in the Capitol that the United States government has taken over, no American troops. When asked by reporters in a follow-up, the president spoke a little bit more about it, and he did say that the United States would be working with organizations there on the ground. The vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in as president, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio actually spoke with her on the phone before the news conference today. She was sworn in just a short time ago, and Marco Rubio had an extensive conversation with her. In that news conference, he said that she says she's going to work with the United States. But frankly, as Rubio put it, she doesn't have a choice not to. So Delcy Rodriguez, vice president of Venezuela, now being sworn in to replace Nicolas Maduro. And so what this is going to look like as we move forward is going to be interesting. But at the end of the day, it sounds like the United States is going to be working with the current Venezuelan leader now in power, the vice president who's been recently elected to enact some of these changes. Another big thing that the president was talking about is how he wants to rebuild oil infrastructure in Venezuela. As many of you have pointed out here on our TikTok Live and YouTube Live, and a lot of your comments, oil seems to be a big priority of the Trump administration there in Venezuela. Tale as old as time, but at the end of the day, as we continue to look at this, the president says that he's going to have oil companies help pay to rebuild infrastructure in Venezuela, and they plan to help give money back to the people and those who have suffered, he says, under Nicolas Maduro's regime. It is important to note that other countries, multiple other countries, don't necessarily recognize Maduro as a legitimate leader of Venezuela. That is something that Marco Rubio did point out, saying that He has been a dictator in the country for many years. Now, whether or not you agree with how the United States is handling this situation, I've been seeing a lot of your comments here on TikTok and on YouTube. A lot of interesting thoughts. But when it comes to this strike, a lot of people, again, another big question people have been asking about how the United States is letting lawmakers know about this strike, whether or not they notified any lawmakers before this happened. What was that situation like? Because at the end of the day, a lot of people are wondering if President Trump had the legal and constitutional authority to carry out what he did. What Marco Rubio spoke to when he talked about this was that some lawmakers were notified, but they can't pre-notify all members of Congress because the operation requires sensitivity and they didn't want information to be leaked. He also talked about how when it came to this strike and investigation that they're doing, it's very sensitive. But ultimately, they were carrying out an arrest warrant for a man who was wanted by the United States government to face charges here in the United States. The indictment that's now been unsealed and has new details and updates been added to it from the Attorney General's office. We have learned that Nicolas Maduro and his wife are going to face numerous charges related to a narco-trafficking conspiracy. They're going to face those charges in the Southern District of New York. And ultimately, the Trump administration is saying that Maduro didn't just turn a blind eye to the criminal enterprises happening in Venezuela, but he also profited from the enterprise. He also facilitated the drug trafficking, and as a result, many American lives were lost. They also talked about how gang members from Venezuela were sent into the United States, something that the president talked about during that news conference. We also heard from General Raising Cane about the details of the operation and how they were able to send an interdiction force to downtown Caracas to arrest Maduro and his wife. And he said it was a very special chain of events where one domino had to be in place before another, and American lives could have been lost. The youngest person in this mission was 20 years old, the oldest 49 years old. And they were able to go forth and then arrest that leader. They did exchange fire with Venezuelan forces. So I would imagine as we get a clearer picture on the ground in Venezuela about the casualties, we're going to get an understanding as to who and how many may have been hurt. As we look through this, some other notifications or big, things that came out of that news conference is that the United States also talked about how it would sell oil to China and Russia. A lot of you have astutely pointed out here in our chat and on YouTube and TikTok about how when you look at the global implications and the broader picture of what's going on in the world, you see that the United States has not been fond of the idea of Venezuela supplying oil to both China, Iran, Russia, close with a lot of countries that the United States does not have diplomatic relations with, close diplomatic relations with. So as we move forward, the president did say he would sell oil from Venezuela to China. If they want to buy it, he'll sell it. President Trump saying he's a businessman at the end of the day, and he wants to make sure that they have a good deal in Venezuela for the people there. We're going to continue to keep you updated on this because as you know, there is so much to talk about. Very briefly, I'd also like to mention that Delta Airlines, in case you're just joining us or in case you're stranded, we know that Delta Airlines has suspended and canceled all flights to the Caribbean right now while this situation is ongoing in the ground in Venezuela. So no flights are going across the Caribbean from Delta Airlines, and I would imagine other airlines are following suit because the Federal Aviation Administration closed the airspace over Curacao and Venezuela because of safety concerns with the military operation going forth there. If your flight's been canceled, check your Fly Delta app and work with the airline, and they're going to try to accommodate you. But this is an ongoing and developing situation. Some other quick notes to point out as well. Some of the reporters asked whether or not this was a message being sent to Cuba or to Mexico, whether or not other countries in South, North, and Central America should consider this as a warning from the president. Marco Rubio did say that the president means business. He's going to do what he says he's going to do, and this should be an example. At the end of the day, they say that the president had said that he's not looking at going in and taking out anything in force when it relates to Mexico, but he does think that the cartels there are a problem, and he feels the cartels run Mexico, not its government. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also did say that if he were a leader in Havana, Cuba right now, he would be worried. Those were the secretary's words, that if I were in Havana right now as a leader, I would be concerned. He said that those leaders should be looking out because at the end of the day, a lot of Cuban forces and leaders were within the Venezuelan government, something that Marco Rubio discussed. But if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll scan through really quickly to see if there is anything else that you guys want to know. We've had a very busy morning. Again, the United States launching airstrikes and Venezuela taking control and capturing the leader, Nicolas Maduro, who is going to be facing charges here in the United States of America. So we're going to continue to keep you updated on this ongoing story. There are so many things I know you guys are curious about, concerned about. We'll continue to bring you answers right here on Fox Local. In the meantime, I'm Ariel Onstadt, and we're going to switch gears as we look ahead to the World Cup, where Football HQ is getting us in the spirit. Thanks so much for streaming with us.